Poems by Isaac Rosenberg. Bibliographical note. The poems whose titles are marked PG6 appeared in a privately issued pamphlet, Night and Day, by Isaac Rosenberg. 1912 PG6, IP 24, 1-9-1 in Youth, by Isaac Rosenberg. London, I. Naroditjicki, Printer, 48 Mile End Road, 1815, at Bisek is a Bisek Egbis, Fisek Karchek, 1-15, 1-15. London, printed by the Paragon Printing Works, 8 Ocean Street, Stepney Green, E. 1916, Sextep, EI plus 26. These pamphlets were the only work issued by the author, in addition to the following single pieces which appeared in various periodicals. In the Workshop, in A. Say 7 Pictures, for a Jewish Bazaar. Our Dead Heroes, in South African Women in Council, December 1914. Essay on Art, Part 1, Prose, prefaced by a poem, Beauty, in South African Women in Council, December 1914. Essay on Art, Part I, South African, Women in Council, January 1915. Marching, and Break of Day in the Trenches, in A Poetry, Chicago, December 1916. The following pieces have appeared posthumously. In Piccadilly, If You Are Fire, Heart's First Word, I, Wedded, It, I Did Not Pluck at All, in Art and Letters, Summer, 1919, with an In Memoriam notice by Annie Rosenberg. Killed in Action, in Color, October, 1919. Savage Song, A Naked African from Moses, God, in Rainbow, New York, October, 1920, with an In Memoriam notice by Horace Brodsky. I Mingle with Your Bones, with an article by Samuel Roth, in Voices, Summer, 1921. Introductory Memoir. Faye. Of the many young poets who gave their lives in the war, Isaac Rosenberg was not the least gifted. Adverse circumstances, imperfect education, want of opportunity, impeded and obscured his genius, but whatever criticism be made of his poetry, its faults are plainly those of excess, rather than deficiency. His writing was often difficult and obscure, because he instinctively thought in images and did not sufficiently appreciate the limitations of language. Also, a continual fear of being empty or thin led him to an over-intricate complexity, but there was no incoherence in his mind. And the main object of these notes, beyond recording the facts of his life, is to illustrate the growth and workings of his mind from his own letters, which will be the best commentary on his poems. I cannot precisely fix the date, but it must have been some time in 1912, when one morning there came to me a letter and an untidy hand from an address in Whitechapel, enclosing some pages of verse on which criticism was asked, and signed Isaac Rosenberg. It was impossible not to be struck by something unusual in the quality of the poems. Thoughts and emotions of no common nature struggled for expression, and at times there gushed forth a pure song which haunted the memory. I answered at once, and the next day received another letter which told me something about my unknown correspondent. In this letter, which, like nearly all his letters, is undated, he wrote, Ald I, Hoffent. I must thank you very much for your encouraging reply to my poetical efforts. In turn, as you are kind enough to ask about myself, I am sending a sort of autobiography I wrote about a year ago. You will see from that my circumstances have not been very favorable for artistic production, but generally, I am optimistic, I suppose, because I am young and do not properly realize the difficulties. I am now attending the Slade, being sent there by some wealthy Jews who are kindly interested in me, and, of course, I spend most of my time drawing. I find writing interferes with drawing a good deal and is far more exhausting. He went on to tell of his admirations, Rossetti coming first for him among modern artists. He had seen very little of early Italian art, but divined that theirs was the type of art which he thought the only kind worth having, expression through passionate color and definite design. Not a moment frozen onto canvas, but the spontaneity of unself-conscious and childlike nature, infinity of suggestion, that is as much part and voice of the artist's soul as the song to the bird. As to modern poets, they were difficult to get hold of, their volumes being expensive, but he had an immense admiration for Francis Thompson. That is the sort of poetry that appeals most to me. He had done nothing yet in painting which he would care to show. He aspired to do imaginative work, but at present was practicing portraiture, as it was necessary to earn a living. At my invitation, Rosenberg came to see me. Small in stature, dark, bright-eyed, thoroughly Jewish in type, he seemed a boy with an unusual mixture of self-reliance and modesty. Indeed, no one could have had a more independent nature. Obviously sensitive, he was not touchy or aggressive. Possessed of vivid enthusiasms, he was shy in speech. One found in talk how strangely little of second-hand in one of his age there was in his opinions, how fresh a mind he brought to what he saw and read. There was an odd kind of charm in his manner, which came from his earnest, transparent sincerity. The sort of autobiography, which I have never seen since I returned it to him, and has perhaps been destroyed, was the story of a youth, mentally ambitious, introspective, dissatisfied with his surroundings, consumed by secret desires for liberation and self-expression. The external facts of his life are briefly told. For these I am mainly indebted to his sister, Mrs. Wynick, whose devotion to her brother and his work was at all times unwearied. She gave much of his scanty leisure time to typing copies of his poems, and many of them would have been lost but for her care in preserving them. Isaac Rosenberg was born at Bristol on the 25th of November, 1890. When he was 7, he came to London with his parents. The family settled in the East End. The boy was sent to the board school of St. George's in the East, and afterwards to the Stepney board school. From childhood he showed a natural gift both for drawing and for writing. While at the Stepney school, his promise appeared so remarkable that the headmaster allowed him to spend all his time in these pursuits. Out of school, he would draw with chalks on the street pavement. Reading poetry was a passion with him. At the age of 14, he was reluctantly obliged to leave school. His parents were poor, and though they took great pride in his gifts, he was one of a family of 8, and he must now earn his living. He was apprenticed, therefore, to the firm of Carl Henschel, in Fleet Street. A trade connected with art was chosen for him as a stepping stone to a painter's career, and as something to fall back upon in case his resources failed him. But he hated trade and felt in bondage. In his mealtimes, he consoled himself by writing poems. In the evenings, he went to classes at the art school of Birkbeck College. He worked hard and won many prizes. Mr. Frank Emanuel, the painter who befriended and encouraged him at this time, describes him as having been made bitter and despondent by his circumstances, and his letters reveal fits of the deepest dejection against which his will contended. The uncongenial work came at last to an end. The sense of liberation was at first intoxicating, yet work had to be found, and Isaac was determined to pursue art and nothing else. He met at first with disappointment and endured many privations. But before long he found good friends. Mr. Amschwitz, an artist, and Mr. Artist, and Mr. Ration. Samuels warmly interested themselves in his behalf. Through them he made the acquaintance of 3 ladies, Mrs. Josephs, Mrs. Herbert Cohen, and Mrs. Lowy, who undertook to provide the means for his training at the Slade School. Through Mr. Emanuel's friendship he had become a member of the Limners, a club of artists and art teachers, which met at Mr. Emanuel's studio. Here he had the opportunity of meeting other artists and exchanging ideas. Prizes were given, which young Rosenberg occasionally won. In spite, therefore, of his poverty and unpropitious surroundings, he had now won sympathetic friends and received both encouragement and material help from discerning compatriots. But with his sensitive artist's pride and jealous independence of spirit, he was not always easy to understand, and those who, with the sole desire to help him, advanced his circumstances sometimes felt that their efforts did not seem to be appreciated. Rosenberg went to the Slade School in October 1911 and remained till March 1914. He won prizes at the school and praise from his teachers. Thrown among contemporaries, all occupied with the problems of art and the discussion of them, he became tinged with the temper and the prevalent ideas of his own generation of students. His natural bent, I think, was in another direction. He showed me drawings and studies from time to time, and I saw a few of his paintings when they were exhibited one summer at the Whitechapel Gallery. He was full of ideas, was a capable draftsman, and could conceive an interesting design. Yet, to judge from what I have seen of his work, it did not seem to be for him the inevitable means of expression. He once showed me at his studio a large, ambitious composition, an oil painting, which I fancy was never completed. I cannot recall the nominal subject, but it was saturated with symbolism and required a good deal of explanation. I liked the mysteriousness of it, and the ideas which inspired the painting had suggested figures and groups and visionary glimpses of landscape, which had passages of real beauty, though the whole work had grown impossibly complex with its convolutions of symbolic meaning. It reminded me of his poetry, and I think that represented his natural bent in art. Had he been born half a century earlier, he would have been an ardent disciple of Rossetti. But he could not escape from the mental atmosphere of his own generation, in which so literary a conception of painting was bound to wither in discouragement. Later, he showed me some studies of landscape and portrait which he had made in South Africa. These were in a more modern vein of realism, but they seemed to fail in the quality of force, to which all other qualities had been, in intention, sacrificed. They had no personal savor. Like every generous and ambitious youth, Rosenberg wished his own generation to do glorious things, and wished to belong to it as a comrade. Whether he would have emerged and found himself as a painter is a doubtful conjecture. I think it possible that he would have abandoned painting. For his true vocation was poetry, and he thought of himself as a poet rather than as a painter. He had begun to write verse at a very early age. Mr. Morley Daynow, who was at the time librarian in the Whitechapel Public Library, was approached one day by a Jewish girl who wanted advice and help for her young brother. His aim in life, she said, was to be a poet. The next day the boy was brought to the library. Isaac then seemed to be between 10 and 12 years of age. He had already determined to be a poet and a painter. He interested and impressed Mr. Daynow, and in return for his friendly encouragement, sent him a poem called David's Harp. These are the earliest verses of Rosenberg's that Mr. Bottomley or I have seen. They are not printed in this book, but they are interesting because they show how, even as a young boy, Rosenberg cherished the traditions of his race and aspired to become a representative poet of his own nation. Moses and Judas Maccabeus were intended to be themes of his maturer poetry. David's Harp is in fluent stanzas and shows the passing influence of Byron. He, which in Byron, which in dollars on 10 and dollars, feast, and 10. The pamphlet called Night and Day, printed in 1912, contains probably all that Rosenberg cared to preserve of his early verse, though no doubt it represented but a small selection from what he had written. After leaving the Slade School, he found himself faced with a harder struggle than ever, but he never admitted defeat. He sold a few pictures and got a few poems into print, but his health was now a cause for anxiety. His lungs were thought to be affected, and he was advised to try a warmer climate. Having a married sister in Cape Town, he thought of South Africa, and in June 1914 he sailed for the Cape. Here he made one or two friends, painted some pictures, taught a little, gave a few lectures, and published some poems and articles. But the visit was not a material success, and he returned disappointed and despondent. Soon after his return in 1915, he printed a second pamphlet of verse, Youth. But he was restless and unhappy and could not work. It was now that he enlisted in the army. From this date onward, he had practically no time for painting, but he continued to write till the end. Moses was printed in 1916. He was first in a Bantam regiment, then in the King's Own Royal Lancasters, and after a period of training at Bury St. Edmunds and at Farnborough, went out, early in 1916, to France. No one could have been less fitted for a military life. He suffered not only from physical disability, bad health, and sensitiveness, but from the absent-mindedness of one whose imagination was possessed by his poetic schemes. "My mind will not relinquish its poetical yearnings," he wrote, "and concentration on alien things and dull has strained my memory." But he endured the inhuman horror of modern war with a great heart. He would not have liked to be called a hero, but his fortitude was truly heroic. On the 1st of April 1918, he was killed in action. The poems collected in this volume speak for themselves. The obscurities, the straining and tormenting of language in the effort to find right expression, the immaturities of style and taste, are apparent on the surface. The imaginative conceptions and the frequent gleam of imaginative phrasing should be equally apparent. But what does not appear on the surface is the fine intention, the ardent toil, and the continual self-criticism which underlay his work. Rosenberg's aim was, in his own words, a kind of poetry, where an interesting complexity of thought is kept in tone and right value to the dominating idea, so that it is understandable and still ungraspable. The sentence occurs in one of his letters, and from this point on, I wish to let Rosenberg speak for himself. His letters give a picture both of his mind and character, far more vivid than anything one could write about him. He very rarely dated a letter, but the address and internal evidence give a clue to the date. The first extract is from a letter written, while he was still an apprentice, to Miss Winifreda Seton, a friend to whom Mr. Amschwitz introduced him. Miss Seton lent him books, encouraged him to write, discussed art and literature with him, and criticized his poems. "It is horrible to think that all these hours, when my days are full of vigor and my hands and soul craving for self-expression, I am bound, chained to this fiendish mangling machine, without hope and almost desire of deliverance, and the days of youth go by." In D.C. I have tried to make some sort of self-adjustment to circumstances by saying it is all experience, but, good God, it is only experience and nothing else. Except you. I really would like to take up painting seriously. I think I might do something at that, but poetry, I despair of ever writing excellent poetry. I can't look at things in the simple, large way that great poets do. My mind is so cramped and dulled and fevered, there is no consistency of purpose, no oneness of aim, the very fibers are torn apart, and application deadened by the fiendish persistence of the coil of circumstance. At last the apprenticeship is over, and Rosenberg writes, over, exulting. 4. Magult Mustang. Congratulate me. I've cleared out of the shop, I hope for good and all. I'm free to do anything, hang myself, or anything except work. I'm very optimistic, now that I don't know what to do, and everything seems topsy-turvy. Footnote 1. Now 1. This and the following extracts are from letters to the same correspondent. A little later comes the reaction. I am out of work. I doubt if I feel the better for it, much as the work was distasteful, though I expect it's the hankering thought of the consequences, pecuniary, etc., that bothers me. All one's thoughts seem to revolve round to one point, death. It is horrible, especially at night. In the silence of the midnight, it seems to clutch at your thought. You can't breathe. Oh, I think, work, any work only to stop one thinking. But such moods are resisted. At another time he is writing. One conceives one's lot, I suppose it's the same with all people, no matter what their condition, to be terribly tragic. You are the victim of a horrible conspiracy, everything is unfair. The gods have either forgotten you or made you a sort of scapegoat to bear all the punishment. I believe, however hard one's lot is, one ought to try and accommodate oneself to the conditions, and except in a case of purely physical pain, I think it can be done. Why not make the very utmost of our lives? Why not make the very utmost of our lives? I'm a practical economist in this respect. Not to talk is to waste words. But, 9. Also, 9. To most people, life is a musical instrument on which they are unable to play, but in the musician's hands, it becomes a living thing. All the artist can see beauty everywhere, anywhere. In what is perhaps an earlier letter, he excuses his neglect of serious reading by his lack of leisure and the worries that make him crave for amusing books as an antidote. You mustn't forget the circumstances I have been brought up in, the little education I have had. Nobody ever told me what to read, or ever put poetry in my way. I don't think I knew what real poetry was till I read Keats a couple of years ago. True, I galloped through Byron when I was about 14, but I fancy I read him more for the story than for the poetry. I used to try to imitate him. Anyway, if I didn't quite take to Donne at first, you understand why. Poetical appreciation is only newly bursting on me. I always enjoyed Shelley and Keats. The Hyperion ravished me. WT2NC. Whenever I read anything in a great man's life that pulls him down to me, my heart always pleads for him, and my mind pictures extenuating circumstances. It is, and the makers absolutely produce investing as people into the action concept. Have you ever picked up a book that looks like a Bible on the outside, but is full of poetry or comic within? My hood is like that, and, I am afraid, so am I. Whenever I feel inclined to laugh, my visage assumes the longitude and gravity of a church spire. I can't say I have ever experienced the power of one spirit over another, except in books, of course, at least in any intense way that you mean, unless you mean the interest one awakes in us, and we long to know more, and none other. I suppose we are all influenced by everybody we come in contact with, in a subconscious way, if not direct, and everything that happens to us is experience, but only the few know it. Most people can only see and hear the noisy sunsets, mountains and waterfalls, but the delicate grays and hues, the star in the puddle, the quiet sailing cloud, is nothing to them. Of course, I only mean this metaphorically, as distinguishing between obvious experiences and the almost imperceptible. I still have no work to do. I think, if nothing turns up here, I will go to Africa. I could not endure to live upon my people, and up till now I have been giving them from what I had managed to save up when I was at work. It is nearly run out now, and if I am to do nothing, I would rather do it somewhere else. Besides, I feel so cramped up here I can do no drawing, reading, or anything. Create our own experience. We can, but we don't. Very often it's only the trouble of a word, and who knows what we miss through not having spoken. It's the man with impudence who has more experience than anybody. He not only varies his own, but makes other people's his own. Bonnaise and resident. Do I like music, and what music I like best? I know nothing whatever about music. Once I heard Schubert's unfinished symphony at the band, and, well, I was in heaven. It was a blur of sounds, sweet, fading and blending. It seemed to draw the sky down, the whole spirit out of me. It was articulate feeling. The inexpressible in poetry, in painting, was there expressed. But I have not heard much, and the sensation that gave me I never had again. I should like very much to be one of the initiated. Some more confidences. I've discovered I'm a very bad talker. I find it difficult to make myself intelligible at times. I can't remember the exact word I want, and I think I leave the impression of being a rambling idiot. In 1910, he went to see the wonderful collection of Japanese paintings lent by Japan to the exhibition at Shepherd's Bush. The thoroughness is astounding. No slipshod, tricky slickness, trusting to chance effects, but a subtle suggestiveness and accident that is the consequence of intention. Also, here are a few sentences from some Notes on Art. Life stales and dulls. The mind demands noble excitement, half-apprehended surmises, the eternal desire, the beautiful. It is a vain belief that art and life go hand in hand. Art is, as it were, another planet. Mere representation is unreal, is fragmentary, The bone taken from Adam remains a bone. To create is to apply pulsating rhythmic principles to the part, a unity, another nature, is created. Ep, to Miss Seaton, to find, with another tells for, Bex. Thanks so much for the Don. I had just been reading Ben Jonson again, and from his poem to Don he must have thought him a giant. I have read some of the Don, I have certainly never come across anything so choke-full of profound meaningful ideas. It would have been very difficult for him to express something commonplace, if he had to. To Miss Seaton, musses, a passage, or previous to find. I forgot to ask you to return my poetry, as I mean to work on some of the poems. I agree the emotions are not worth expressing, but I thought the things had some force, and an idea or so I rather liked. Of course, I know poetry is a far finer thing than that, but I don't think the failure was due to the subject. I had nothing to say about it, that's all. Crawshaw, I think, is sometimes very sexual in his religious poems, but it is always new and beautiful. I believe we are apt to fix a standard, each of subject, in poetry. We acknowledge the poetry and subjects not generally taken as material, but I think we all, at least I do, prefer the poetical subject, Kubla Khan, the mistress of vision, dream tryst, Poe, Verlaine. Here, feeling is separated from intellect. Our senses are not interfered with by what we know of, facts, we know infinity through melody. After leaving the Slade School, at a loss for work and anxious about his health, Rosenberg thought for a time of going to Russia. But it was difficult for a Jew to get a passport, and he reverted to the African journey which he had contemplated already some years before. N2, Miss Seaton, ND, also. So I've decided on Africa, the climate being very good, and I believe plenty to do. I won't be quite lost in Africa. I dislike London for the selfishness it instills into one, which is a reason of the peculiar feeling of isolation I believe most people have in London. I hardly know anybody whom I would regret leaving, except, of course, the natural ties of sentiment with one's own people. But whether it is that my nature distrusts people, or is intolerant, or whether my pride or my backwardness cools people, I have always been alone. Forgive this little excursion into the forbidden lands of egotism. The next letter was written to Mr. Edward Marsh, in the midst of packing for the voyage to the Cape. Mr. Marsh was interested in Rosenberg both as an artist and as a poet. He printed one of his poems in Georgian Poetry, 1916 to 1917, and befriended him in many ways. The letter throws light on Rosenberg's use of language in poetry, as the piece referred to, Midsummer Frost, is not in the present selection. It may be given here. All takes Balt, Caparitson. A July ghost, aghast at the strange winter, wonders at burning noon, all summer seeming. How like a sad thought buried in light, woven words, winter and alien presence is ambushed here. See from the fire fountain noon, there creep lazy yellow ardors towards pale evening, dragging the sun across the shell of thought. A web threaded with fading fire, futile and fragile lure, a July ghost, standing with feet of fire on banks of ice, my frozen heart, the summer cannot reach, hidden as a root from air or star from day, a frozen pool whereon mirth dances, where the shining boys would fish. To Edward Marcia, 1914. I believe that all poets who are personal see things genuinely, have their place. One needn't be a Shakespeare, and yet be quite as interesting. I have moods when Rossetti satisfies me more than Shakespeare, and I am sure I have enjoyed some things of Francis Thompson more than the best of Shakespeare. Yet I never meant to go as high as these. I know I've come across things by people of far inferior vision that were as important in their results to me. I am not going to refute your criticisms. In literature, I have no judgment, at least for style. If in reading a thought has expressed itself to me in beautiful words, my ignorance of grammar, etc., makes me accept that. I should think you are right mostly, and I may yet work away your chief objections. You are quite right in the way you read my poems, but I thought I could use the July ghost to mean the summer, and also an ambassador of the summer, without interfering with the sense. The shell of thought is man. you realize a shell has an opening. The ardors, the sense of heat forms a web. This signifies a sense of summer. The web again becomes another metaphor, a July ghost. But, of course, I mean it for summer right through. I think your suggestion of taking out woven is very good. The next letter is from Cape Town. To Edward Marshew, 1914. I should like you to do me a favor if it's not putting you to too much bother. I am in an infernal city by the sea. This city has men in it, and these men have souls in them, or at least have the passages to souls. Though they are millions of years behind time, they have yet reached the stage of evolution that knows ears and eyes. But these passages are dreadfully clogged up. Gold dust, diamond dust, stocks and shares, and heaven knows what other flinty muck. Well, I've made up my mind to clear through all this rubbish, but I want your help. Now, I'm going to give a series of lectures on modern art. I'm sending you the first, which I gave in great style. I was asked whether the Futurists exhibited at the Royal Academy, but I want to make the lectures interesting and intelligible by reproductions or slides. Now, I wonder whether you have reproductions which you could lend me till I returned or was finished with them. I want to talk about John, Cézanne, Van Gogh, Innes, the early Picasso, not the cubistic one, Spencer, Gertler, Lamb, Puvis de Chavannes, Degas. A book of reproductions of the Impressionists would do, and I could get them transferred on slides. I hope this would not put you to any great trouble, but if you could manage to do it, you don't know how you would help me. Stanley gave me a little job to paint 2 babies, which helped me to pay my way for a bit. I expect to get pupils and kick up a row with my lectures. But nobody seems to have money here, and not an ounce of interest in art. The climate's fine, but the sun is a very changeable creature and I can't come to any sort of understanding with this golden beast. He pretends to keep quiet for half an hour, and just as I think, now I've got it, the damned thing has frisked about. There's a lot of splendid stuff to paint. We are walled in by the sharp upright mountain, and the bay. Across the bay, the piled-up mountains of Africa look lovely and dangerous. It makes one think of savagery and earthquakes, the elemental lawlessness. Juan Streed. The next extract is from a letter written in 1915, just after hearing the news of Rupert Brooke's death. Dop, or N, to Miss Seaton. Dop, bor, subbing, untin, dop. It is the dop while barget. Do you know Emerson's poems? I think they are wonderful. Each and all I think is deep and beautiful. There is always a kind of beaminess, like a dancing of light, in his poems. I do think, though, that he depends too much on inspiration, and though they always have a solid texture of thought, they sometimes seem thin in color or sensuousness. To Miss Seaton, Ich P.S. I saw Olive Schreiner last night. She's an extraordinary woman, full of life. I had a little picture for her from a dear friend of hers in Africa, I stayed with while I was there. She was so pleased with my pictures of Kaffirs. Who is your best living English poet? What's they done? I found somebody miles and miles above everybody, a young man, Lascelles Abercrombie, a mighty poet and brother to Browning. Continuate, and P.T. Other references and letters show how deep at this time Mr. Abercrombie's influence was. Rosenberg calls his Hymn of Love the finest poem of our time. He has now joined the army and writes from Bury St. Edmunds. To Edward Marshy, 1915. I have just joined the Bantams and am down here amongst a horrible rabble. Falstaff's scarecrows were nothing to these. 3 out of every 4 have been scavengers, the 4th is a ticket of leave. But that is nothing, though while I'm waiting for my kit I'm roughing it a bit, having come down without even a towel. I dry myself with my pocket handkerchief. I don't know whether I will be shifted as soon as I get my rig out. The next was written in hospital at Bury. To Edward Marsh. Marsh. First, not to alarm you by this heading, I must tell you that while running before the colonel, I started rather excitedly and tripped myself, coming down pretty heavily in the wet grit, and am in hospital with both my hands cut. I've been here since last Saturday, and expect to be out by about the beginning of the week. It is a dull kind of life in the hospital, and I'm very anxious to get out and be doing some rough kind of work. Mr. Schiff sent me some watercolors, and I amuse myself with drawing the other invalids. Of course, I must give them what I do, but I can see heaps of material for pictures here. The landscape, too, seems decent, though I haven't seen anything but from the barracks, as this accident happened pretty near at the start. I hope you are not annoyed at that fib of mine, but I never dreamt they would trouble to find out at home. Or straight reading and IDC. I have managed to persuade my mother that I am for home service only, though, of course, I have signed on for general service. I left without saying anything because I was afraid it would kill my mother or I would be too weak and not go. She seems to have got over it though, and as soon as I can get leave, I'll see her, and I hope it will be well. It is very hard to write here, so you must not expect interesting letters. There is always behind or through my object some pressing sense of foreign matter, immediate and not personal, which hinders and disjoints what would otherwise have coherence and perhaps weight. I have left all my poems, including a short drama, with a friend, and I will write to him for them when I shall send them either direct to Abercrombie or to you first. I believe in myself more as a poet than a painter. I think I get more depth into my writing. I've only taken Donne with me, and don't feel for poetry much in this wretched place. There is not a book or paper here, we are not allowed to stir from the gate, have little to eat, and are not allowed to buy any if we have money, and are utterly wretched, I mean the hospital. If you could send me some novel or chocolates, you would make me very happy. To Edward Marsh, from Bury St. Edmunds, HLCEI, Fivers, Seat. Wud, or Spent. I received a letter today, sent over a week ago, from Abercrombie, and I feel very flushed about it. He says no one who tries to write poetry would help envying some of my writing. Since I wrote you, I have had more mishaps. My feet now are the trouble. Do you know what privates' military boots are? You are given a whole armorer's shop to wear, but, by God, in a few hours my heels were all blistered, and I've been marching and drilling in most horrible pain. I drew 3 weeks' pay and had some money sent me from home, and bought a pair of boots 3 or 4 sizes too large for me. My feet had swelled so. Besides this trouble, I have a little impudent schoolboy pup for an officer, and he has me marked. He has taken a dislike to me. I don't know why. She. To Miss Seaton, from Bury St. Edmunds, Dobble, State Edmunds. Thanks for your letter and your books, which they sent me from home. It is impossible to read as we are, and I don't expect to get proper leisure for reading till this rotten affair is over. My feet are pretty nigh better, and my hands, and I am put down for a lance corporal. The advantage is, though you have a more responsible position, you are less likely to be interfered with by the men, and you become an authority. I expect to be home for 4 days shortly. I don't know whether I told you Lascelles Abercrombie sent me a fine letter about my work, which made me very bucked. There is nobody living whose praise could have pleased me so much. I have some pictures at the NEAC, one of which is likely to be sold. Edward Marsh, from Bury St. Edmunds. Heaterspenders, Adrees, Shibberies, High, Station. Heaterspenders, how to eat a bouter used to dry, and other. Or, to Edward, Cora, or other people. I suppose my troubles are really laughable, but they do irritate at the moment. Doing coal fatigues and cookhouse work with a torn hand, and marching 10 miles with a clean hole about an inch round in your heel, and bullies swearing at you, is not very natural. I think when my hands and feet get better I'll enjoy it. Nobody thinks of helping you, I mean those who could. Not till I had been made a thorough cripple. An officer said it was absurd to think of wearing those boots, and told me to soak them thoroughly in oil to soften them. Thank you for your note. We get little enough, you know, and I allow half of that to my mother. I rather fancy she is going to be swindled in this rat-trap affair, so it will do to get to London with. You must now be the busiest man in England, and I am sure would hardly have time to read my things. Besides, you won't like the formlessness of the play. If you like, you can send them to Abercrombie, and read them when you have more time. I don't think I told you what he said. A good many of your poems strike me as experimental, and not quite certain of themselves. But, on the other hand, I always find a vivid and original impulse, and what I like most in your songs is your ability to make the concealed poetic power in words come flashing out. Some of your phrases are remarkable. No one who tries to write poetry would help envying some of them. I have asked him to sit for me, a poet, to paint a poet. All this must seem to you like a blur on the window, or hearing sounds without listening while you are thinking. To Miss Seaton, from Blackdown Camp, Farnborough. F. Durast. 1 month. 1 month. Thanks very much for the bread and biscuits, which I enjoyed very much. I am in another regiment now, as the old one was smashed up on account of most of the men being unfit. We that were left have been transferred here. The food is much better, but conditions are most unsettling. Every other person is a thief, and in the end you become one yourself when you see all your most essential belongings go, which you must replace somehow. I also got into trouble here the first day. It's not worthwhile detailing what happened and exposing how ridiculous, idiotic, and meaningless the army is, and its dreadful bullyisms, and what puny minds control it. I am trying to get our Passover off, which falls Easter. If I do, I'll let you know. The bother is that we will be on our ball firing then, and also this before-mentioned affair may mess it up. This ball firing implies we will be ready for the front. I have been working on Moses, in my mind, I mean, and it was through my absent-mindedness while full of that I forgot certain orders, and am now undergoing a rotten and unjust punishment. I'm working a curious plot into it, and of course, as I can't work here, I jot little scraps down, and will piece it together the first chance I get. The remaining letters are all from France. To Miss Seaton, 1906. Mine, 1906. We made straight for the trenches, but we've had vile weather, and I've been wet through for 4 days and nights. I lost all my socks and things before I left England, and hadn't the chance to make it up again, so I've been in trouble. Particularly with bad heels, you can't have the slightest conception of what such an apparently trivial thing means. We've had shells bursting 2 yards off, bullets whizzing all over the show, but all you are aware of is the agony of your heels. 29. I had a letter from R.C. Trevelyan, the poet. 29. He writes, "It is a long time since I have read anything that has impressed me so much as your Moses and some of your short poems." He confesses parts are difficult, and he is not sure whether it's my fault or his. The next letter is the first of a series to Mr. Bottomley, whom he was only to know by correspondence. He was now for a time working with the Salvage Corps. To Gordon Bottomley, postmark, June 12, 1916. Any 16s. 1. If you really mean what you say in your letter, there is no need to tell you how proud I am. I had to read your letter many times before I could convince myself you were not pulling my leg. People are always telling me my work is promising, incomprehensible, but promising, and all that sort of thing, and my meekness subsides before the patronizing knowingness. The first thing I saw of yours was last year in the Georgian book, The End of the World. I must have worried all London about it, certainly everybody I know. I had never seen anything like it. After that, I got hold of Chambers of Imagery. Mr. Marsh told me of your plays, but I joined the army and have never been able to get at them. It is a great thing to me to be able to tell you now in this way what marvelous pleasure your work has given me, and what pride that my work pleases you. I had ideas for a play called Adam and Lilith before I came to France, but I must wait now. 2. Gordon Bottomley, postmark, July 23, 1906. 1916. Your letter came today with Mr. Trevelyan's, like two friends to take me for a picnic. Or rather, like friends come to release the convict from his chains, with his innocence in their hands, as one sees in the Twopenny Picture Palace. You might say, friends come to take you to church, or the priest to the prisoner. Simple poetry, that is where an interesting complexity of thought is kept in tone and right value to the dominating idea, so that it is understandable and still ungraspable. I know it is beyond my reach just now, except, perhaps, in bits. I am always afraid of being empty. When I get more leisure and more settled times, I will work on a larger scale, and give myself room. Then I may be less frustrated in my efforts to be clear, and satisfy myself too. I think what you say about getting beauty by phrasing of passages rather than the placing of individual words very fine and very true. To Miss Seaton, written in hospital, 196 ND, Street. I was very glad to have your letter, and know there is no longer a mix-up about letters and such like. Always the best thing to do is to answer at once, that is the likeliest way of catching one, for we shift about so quickly. How long I will stay here I cannot say, it may be a while or just a bit. I have some Shakespeare, the comedies, and also Macbeth. Now I see your argument and cannot deny my treatment of your criticisms, but have you ever asked yourself why I always am rude to your criticisms? Now I intended to show you, Tess Taps, and why I value his criticisms. Why I value his criticisms. I think anybody can pick holes and find unsound parts in any work of art. Anyone can say, Christ's creed is a slave's creed, the Mosaic is a vindictive, savage creed, and so on. It is the unique and superior, the illuminating qualities one wants to find, discover the direction of the impulse. Whatever anybody thinks of a poet, he will always know himself. He knows that the most marvelously expressed idea is still nothing, and it is stupid to think that praise can do him harm. I know sometimes one cannot exactly define one's feelings, nor explain reasons for liking and disliking, but there is then the right of a suspicion that the thing has not been properly understood, or one is prejudiced. It is much my fault if I am not understood, I know, but I also feel a kind of injustice if my idea is not grasped and is ignored, and only petty cavilling at form, which I had known all along was so, is continually knocked into me. I feel quite sure that form is only a question of time. I am afraid I am more rude than ever, but I have exaggerated here the difference between your criticisms and ideas of poetry can be very different too. Tennyson thought Burns's love songs important, but the Cotters SNP'd poor. Wordsworth thought the opposite. To Miss Seaton, November 15, 1916, written in hospital, others, Suburn, Alders on the working. In Nut. London may not be the place for poetry to keep healthy in, but Shakespeare did most of his work there, and Donne, Keats, Milton, Blake, I think nearly all are big poets. But, after all, that is a matter of personal likings or otherwise. Most of the French country I've seen has been devastated by war, torn up. Even the woods look ghastly with their shell-shattered trees. Our only recollections of warm and comfortable feelings are the rare times amongst human villages, which happened about twice in a year, but who can tell what one will like or do after the war? If the 20th century is so awful, tell me what period you believe most enviable. Even Pater points out the Renaissance was not an outburst, it was no simultaneous marked impulse of minds living in a certain period of time, but scattered and isolated. Harrow. To Edward Marsh. Postmark, January 30, 1917. I think with you that poetry should be definite thought and clear expressions. However subtle, I don't think there should be any vagueness at all, but a sense of something hidden and felt to be there. Now, when my things fail to be clear, I am sure it is because of the luckless choice of a word, or the failure to introduce a word that would flash my idea plain, as it is to my own mind. I believe my Amazon poem to be my best poem. If there is any difficulty, it must be in words here and there, the changing or elimination of which may make the poem clear. It has taken me about a year to write, for I have changed and rechanged it and thought hard over that poem, and striven to get that sense of inexorableness the human, or unhuman, side of this war has. It even penetrates behind human life, for the Amazon, who speaks in the second half of the poem, is imagined to be without her lover yet, while all her sisters have theirs. The released spirits of the slain earth, men, her lover, yet remains to be released. To Miss Seaton, 1916. T. Espet. One more. Many thanks for book and chocolate. Both are being devoured with equal pleasure. I can't get quite the delight in Whitman as from one poem of his. I know, Captain, my Captain. I admire the vigor and independence of his mind, but his diction is so diffused. Emerson and not Whitman is America's poet. You will persist in refusing to see my side of our little debate on criticism. Everybody has agreed with you about the faults, and the reason is obvious. The faults are so glaring that nobody can fail to see them. But how many have seen the beauties? And it is here more than the other that the true critic shows himself. And I absolutely disagree that it is blindness or carelessness. It is the brain succumbing to the Herculean attempt to enrich the world of ideas. To Lawrence Binion, 1916. Also, 505th. In this P.O., Hio cause, and rive, or searching, a person. 505th, or searching, and rives, or searching, here, or honest and lessons hi, shaken, 500 rives. It is far, very far, to the British Museum from here. Situated as I am, Siberia is no further and certainly no colder, but not too far for that tiny mite of myself, my letter, to reach there. Winter has found its way into the trenches at last, but I will assure you, and leave to your imagination, the transport of delight with which we welcomed its coming. Winter is not the least of the horrors of war. I am determined that this war, with all its powers for devastation, shall not master my poeting, that is, if I am lucky enough to come through all right. I will not leave a corner of my consciousness covered up, but saturate myself with the strange and extraordinary new conditions of this life, and it will all refine itself into poetry later on. I have thoughts of a play round our Jewish hero, Judas Maccabeus. I have much real material here, and also, there is some parallel in the savagery of the invaders then to this war. I am not decided whether truth of period is a good quality or a negative one. Flaubert's Salammbô proves, perhaps, that it is good. It decides the tone of the work, though it makes it hard to give the human side and make it more living. However, it is impossible now to work, and difficult even to think of poetry. One is so cramped intellectually. To Gordon Bottomley, February 1917, c. Number 7. And, how are, 1. Your letters always give me a strange and large pleasure, and I shall never think I have written poetry in vain, since it has brought your friendliness in my way. Now, feeling as I am, cast away and used up, you don't know what a letter like yours is to me. Ever since November, when we first started on our long marches, I have felt weak, but it seems to be some inscrutable, mysterious quality of weakness that defies all doctors. I have been examined most thoroughly several times by our doctor, and there seems to be nothing at all wrong with my lungs. I believe I have strained my abdomen in some way, and I shall know of it later on. We have had desperate weather, but the poor fellows in the trenches, where there are no dugouts, are the chaps to pity. I am sending a very slight sketch of a louse hunt. It may be a bit vague as I could not work it out here, but if you can keep it till I get back, I can work on it then. I do believe I could make a fine thing of Judas. Judas as a character is more magnanimous than Moses, and I believe I could make it very intense and write a lot from material out here. Thanks very much for your joining in with me to rout the pest out, but I have tried all kinds of stuff. If you can think of any preparation you believe effective, I'd be most grateful for it. The Louse Hunt refers to a night scene in which Rosenberg took part, and which forcibly struck his imagination as a subject for a Goya picture, or for a poem like The Jolly Beggars, a barn full of naked soldiers, Scottish and others, singing, swearing, and laughing, in mad antics as they pursued the chase. To Gordon Bottomley, postmark, April 8, 1917. Or, is action. All through this winter I have felt most crotchety, all kinds of small things interfering with my fitness. My hands would get chilblains, or bad boots would make my feet sore, and this aggravating a general rundownness, I have not felt too happy. I have gone less warmly clad during the winter than through the summer, because of the increased liveliness on my clothes. I've been stung to what we call dumping, a great part of my clothing, as I thought it wisest to go cold than lousy. It may have been this that caused all the crotchetiness. However, we've been in no danger, that is, from shellfire, for a good long while, though so very close to most terrible fighting. But as far as houses or sign of ordinary human living is concerned, we might as well be in the Sahara Desert. I think I could give some blood-curdling touches if I wished to tell all I see, of dead buried men blown out of their graves, and more, but I will spare you all this. To Edward Marsh, postmark, May, 1907. Regular rhythms. I do not like much, but, of course, it depends on where the stress and accent are laid. I think there is nothing finer than the vigorous opening to Lycidas's for music, yet it is regular. It is only when we get a bit of a rest, and the others might be gambling or squabbling, I do a line or two and continue this way. The weather is gorgeous now, and we are bivouacked in the fields. To Edward Marsh, 1917. 1. Sue. It ask, Ceteen. 1-17. I hope you have not yet got my poem, The Amulet. I've asked my sister to send you. If you get it, please don't read it, because it's the merest sketch, and the best is yet to come. If I am able to carry on with it, I'll send you it in a more presentable fashion. I believe I have a good idea at bottom. It's a kind of rape of the Sabine women idea. Some strange race of wanderers have settled in some wild place and are perishing out for lack of women. The prince of these explores some country near where the women are most fair. But the natives will not hear of foreign marriages, and he plots another rape of the Sabines, but is trapped in the act. To Edward Marsh, 1917. 1-4-4. 1. Std. End. I am now fearfully rushed, but find energy enough to scribble this in the minute I plunder from my work. I believe I can see the obscurities in the daughters, but hardly hope to clear them up in France. The first part, the picture of the daughters dancing and calling to the spirits of the slain before their last ones have ceased among the boughs of the tree of life, I must still work on. In that part, obscure the description of the voice of the daughter. I have not made clear, I see, I have tried to suggest the wonderful sound of her voice, spiritual and voluptuous at the same time. The end is an attempt to imagine the severance of all human relationship and the fading away of human love. Later on I will try and work on it, because I think it a pity if the ideas are to be lost for want of work. My unicorn play is stopped because of my increased toil, and I forget how much or little I told you of it. I want to do it in one act, although I think I have a subject here that could make a gigantic play. I have not the time to write out the sketch of it as far as it's gone, though I'd like to know your criticism of it very much. The most difficult part I shrink from. I think even Shakespeare might, the first time tell, the chief of the decaying race, sees a woman, who is Lilith, Saul's wife, and he is called upon to talk. Saul and Lilith are ordinary folk into whose ordinary lives the unicorn bursts. It is to be a play of terror, terror of hidden things, and the fear of the supernatural. But I see no hope of doing the play while out here. I have a way, when I write, to try and put myself in the situation, and I make gestures and grimaces. To Gordon Bottomley, postmark, July 20, 1917. My sister wrote me of your note, and it made me very glad to feel you thought in that way about my poem, because I liked it myself, above anything I have yet done. I know my letters are not what they should be, but I must take any chance I get of writing for fear. Another chance does not come, so I write hastily and leave out most I should write about. I wished to say last time a lot about your poem, but I could think of nothing that would properly express my great pleasure in it, and I can think of nothing now. If anything, I think it is too brief, although it is so rare and compressed and full of hinted matter. I wish I could get back and read your plays, and if my luck still continues, I shall. Leaves have commenced with us, but it may be a good while before I get mine. We are more busy now than when I last wrote, but I generally manage to knock something up if my brain means to, and I am sketching out a little play. My great fear is that I may lose what I've written, which can happen here so easily. I send home any bit I write for safety, but that can easily get lost in transmission. However, I live in an immense trust that things will turn out well. To Gordon Bottomley, 1917. All finding Piz. he abases. I'll find energy and COPC. The other poems I have not yet read, but I will follow on with letters and shall send the bits of, or rather the bit of, a play I've written. Just now it is interfered with by a punishment I am undergoing for the offense of being endowed with a poor memory, which continually causes me trouble and often punishment. I forgot to wear my gas helmet one day. In fact, I've often forgotten it. But I was noticed one day, and 7 days pack drill is the consequence, which I do between the hours of going up the line and sleep. My memory, always weak, has become worse since I've been out here. To Gordon Bottomley, postmark, August 3, 1917. Wednesday, 2000 mine. I don't think I'll get my play complete for it in time, though it will hardly take much space. It's so slight. If I could get home on leave, I'd work at it and get it done, no doubt, but leaves are so chancy. It's called The Unicorn. Now, it's about a decaying race who have never seen a woman. Animals take the place of women, but they yearn for continuity. The chief's unicorn breaks away and he goes in chase. The unicorn is found by boys outside a city and brought in, and breaks away again. Saul, who has seen the unicorn on his way to the city for the week's victuals, gives chase in his cart. A storm comes on, the mules break down, and by the lightning he sees the unicorn race by. A naked black like an apparition rises up and easily lifts the wheels from the rut, and together they ride to Saul's hut. There Lilith is in great consternation, having seen the unicorn and knowing the legend of this race of men. The emotions of the black, the chief, are the really difficult part of my story. Afterwards, a host of blacks on horses, like centaurs and buffaloes, come rushing up, the unicorn in front. On every horse is clasped a woman. Lilith faints, Saul stabs himself. The chief places Lilith on the unicorn, and they all race away. In the late summer of this year, 1917, Rosenberg came to England on leave. To Gordon Bottomley, dated September 24, 1917. The greatest thing of my leave, after seeing my mother, was your letter which has just arrived. WT, I wish I could have seen you, but now I must go on and hope that things will turn out well, and some happy day will give me the chance of meeting you. I am afraid I can do no writing or reading. I feel so restless here and unanchored. We have lived in such an elemental way so long, things here don't look quite right to me somehow. Or it may be the consciousness of my so limited time here for freedom, so little time to do so many things. The unicorn, as will be obvious, is just a basis. Its final form will be very different, I hope. On returning to France, he was taken ill and sent down the line. The time in hospital was a relief, especially as his restlessness in England had prevented writing or reading. To Miss Seaton, dated February 14, 1918, stay, was the D's, how to grassing origins. We had a rough time in the trenches with the mud, but now we're out for a bit of a rest, and I will try and write longer letters. You must know by now what a rest behind the line means. I can call the evenings, that is, from tea to lights out, my own, but there is no chance whatever for seclusion or any hope of writing poetry now. Sometimes I give way and am appalled at the devastation this life seems to have made in my nature. It seems to have blunted me. And the dachshund. I seem to be powerless to compel my will to any direction, and all I do is without energy and interest. To Gordon Bottomley, postmark, February 26, 1918. Which end, ask, which end, which end, action, night, which end, which, well. Which started Bottomley, let's 60 which seconds, which, fee, well. I wanted to send some bits I wrote for the unicorn while I was in hospital, and if I find them, I'll enclose them. I tried to work on your suggestion and divided it into 4 acts, but since I left the hospital, all the poetry has gone quite out of me. I seem even to forget words, and I believe if I met anybody with ideas I'd be dumb. No drug could be more stupefying than our work, to me, anyway. And this goes on like that old torture of water trickling, drop by drop, unendingly, on one's helplessness. To Gordon Bottomley, dated March 7, 1918, 05/1918. I believe our interlude is nearly over, and we may go up the line any moment now, so I answer your letter straight away. If only this war were over, our eyes would not be on death so much. It seems to underlie even our underthoughts. Yet when I have been so near to it as anybody could be, the idea has never crossed my mind. Certainly not so much as when some lying doctor told me I had consumption. I like to think of myself as a poet, so what you say, though I know it to be extravagant, gives me immense pleasure. All fact. To Miss Seaton, March 8, 1918. Once the one, first. I do not feel that I have much to say, but I do know that unless I write now, it will be a long time before you hear from me again, without something exceptional happens. It is not very cold now, but I dread the wet weather, which is keeping off while we are out, and, I fear, saving itself up for us. We will become like mummies, look warm and lifelike, but a touch, and we crumble to pieces. Did I send you a little poem, The Burning of the Temple? I thought it was poor, or rather, difficult in expression, but G. Bottomley thinks it fine. Was it clear to you? If I am lucky, and come off undamaged, I mean to put all my innermost experiences into the unicorn. I want it to symbolize the war, and all the devastating forces let loose by an ambitious and unscrupulous will. Last summer I wrote pieces for it, and had the whole of it planned out, but since then I've had no chance of working on it, and it may have gone quite out of my mind. To Edward Marsh, dated March 28, 1918. I think I wrote you. I was about to go up the line again after our little rest. We are now in the trenches again, and though I feel very sleepy, I just have a chance to answer your letter, so I will while I may. It's really my being lucky enough to bag an inch of candle that incites me to this pitch of punctual epistolary. I must measure my letter by the light. How O2, Hera. The date of the postmark on this letter is April 2nd, when the writer was already dead. Lawrence Binyon. Moses, a play, 1916. Persons. Moses, an Egyptian prince, Abinoah, an overseer. 2. Hebrews, Koelu, Abinoah's daughter messenger. Moses. Scene 1. Outside a college in Thebes. Egyptian students pass by. A Moses alone in meditation. Enter messenger. E. However. Messenger. Handing papyrus. Aparphis is particulars I'm, Cialasian, about to raid, is a mative and housing characteris, 420s desetter. I television feels also courtesies to attective of your angels and inexualations. What recently Albertus for Byrus also created by Maja. Moses. Reads. To our beloved son, greeting. Add to our thoughts of you, if possible to add, but a little, and you are more than old heroes, not to bemean your genius, who might cry, was that all? We pile barriers everywhere, we give you idiots for tools, tree stumps for swords, skin sacks for souls, skin sacks for souls. The 16th pyramid remains to be built, we give you the last draft of slaves. Move, forget not the edict, Pharaoh. Moses. 2 pages. Messenger. What is the edict? And nature on simple, one understanding. Messenger. The royal paunch of Pharaoh dangled worriedly, not knowing where the wrong, viands once giant-like, came to him thin and thinner, what rats gnawed, horror, the swarm of slaves. The satraps swore, their wives' bones hurt them when they lay abed, that before were soft and plump, the people howled. They boil the slaves 3 days to get their fat, ending the famine. A haggard council held decrees, the 2 hind molars, those 2 staunchest busy laborers in the belly's service, to be drawn from out each slave's greased mouth, which soon, from incapacity, will lose the habit of eating. Moses. Well, should their bones stick out to find the air, I'll make a use of them for pleasantness, droll demonstrations of anatomy. Messenger. And when you've ended, find 'twas one on sharks. Moses signs to messenger to go. Exit, messenger. Or eo, I, or I, for, or I, or I, for, or I. Moses. Fine, fine. See, in my brain, what madmen have rushed through, and like a tornado, torn up the tight roots of some dead universe, the old clay is broken, for a power to soak in and knit it all into tougher tissues to hold life, pricking my nerves till the brain might crack. It boils to my fingertips, till my hands ache to grip. The hammer, the lone hammer, that breaks lives into a road through which my genius drives. Pharaoh, well peruqued and oiled, and your admirable pyramids, and your interminable procession of crowded kings, you are my little fishing rods, wherewith I catch the fish to suit my hungry belly. I am rough now, and new, and will have no tailor. Startlingly, as a mountainside wakes aware of its other side, when from a cave a leopard comes, on its heels the same red sand, springing with acquainted air, sprang an intelligence, colored as a whim of mine, showed to my dull outer eyes, the living eyes underneath. Did I not shrivel up and take the place of air, secret as those eyes were, and those strong eyes call up a giant frame, and I am that now. Pharaoh is sleek and deep, and where his love for me is set under the deeps on their floor, or in the shallow ways, though I have been as a diver, never yet could I find a small misdemeanor, touch of rebelliousness, to prick the vein of father, monitor, foe, will tell which of these his kingship is. If I shut my eyes to the edict, and leave the pincers to rust, and the slave's teeth as God made them, then hide from the summoning tribunal, Pharaoh will speak, and I'll seize that word to act. Should the word be of foes, I can use it, well, as a poison to soak into Egypt's bowels. A wraith from old Nile will cry, for his mercy they break his back, and I shall have a great following for this. The rude, touched heart of the mauled, sweaty horde, their rough tongues fawn at my hands, their red-streaked eyes glitter with sacrifice. Well, Pharaoh bids me act, agu. Ha, I'm all a bristle. Lord, his eyes would go wide. If he knew the road my rampant dreams would race. I am too much awake now, restless, so restless. Behind white mists invisibly, my thought stood like a mountain. But power, watching as a man, saw no mountain there, only the mixing mist and sky, and the flat earth. What shoulder pushed through those mists of gay fantastic pastimes, and startled hills of sleep? As 1800, he looks in a mirror, some too. Oh, apparition of me, ruddy flesh soon hueless, fade and show to my eyes the lasting bare body, soul sack fall away, and show what you hold, sing, let me hear you sing. A voice. And two, sings. And two, as e, our practice idm, which was a basically dacing, strong died, a pinot. Upon my lips, like a cloud, to burst on the peaks of light, sit cowled impossible things, to tie my hands at their prime and height. Power, break through their shroud, pierce them so thoroughly, thoroughly enter me, know me for one dead, break the shadowy thread, the cowering spirit's bond, writ by illusions blonde. Ah, let the morning pale, throb with a wilder pulse, no delicate flame shall quail. With terror at your convulse, thin branches whip the white skies, to lips and spaces of song, that chant a mood to my eyes. Ah, sleep can be overlong. Moses. Voices thunder, voices of deeds not done, low on the air are scrawled in abysmal light. Old myths never known and yet already forgone, and songs more lost, more secret than desert light. Martyrdoms of uncreated things, virgin silences waiting a breaking voice today. As in a womb they cry, in a cage beat vain wings. Under life, over life, is their unbeing my choice. Dull wine of torpor, the unsoldered spirit lies limp. Ah, if she would run into a mold, some new idea unwalled to human byways, an apocalyptic camp. of utterest and ulterior dreaming, understood only in its gleaming, to flash stark naked the whole girth of the world. I am sick of priests and forms, this rigid, dry-boned refinement, as ladies' perfumes are obnoxious to stern natures, this miasma of a rotting god is to me. Who has made of the forest a park? Who has changed the wolf to a dog, and put the horse in harness, and man's mind in a groove? I heard the one spirit cry in them, break this metamorphosis, disenchant my lying body, only putrefaction is free, and I, freedom, am not. Moses, touch us, thou. There shall not be a void or calm, but a fury fill the veins of time, whose limbs had begun to rot, who had flattered my stupid torpor, with an easy and mimic energy, and drained my veins with a paltry marvel, more monstrous than battle, for the soul ached and went out dead in pleasure. Is not this song still sung in the streets of me, and the after sea, which we begin? A naked African walked in the sun, singing, singing of his wild love. I slew the tiger, with your young strength, my tawny panther, rolled round my life. 3 sheep, your breasts, and my head between, grazing together, on a smooth slope. Ah, Kawelu, had you embalmed your beauty so it could not backward go, or change in any way, what were the use if on my eyes? What were the use if my sight grew, and its far branches were cloud-hung, you small at the roots like grass, while the new lips my spirit would kiss were not red lips of flesh, but the huge kiss of power. Where yesterday soft hair through my fingers fell, a shaggy mane would entwine, and no slim form, work fire to my thighs, but human life's inarticulate mass, throbbed the pulse of a thing, whose mountain flanks awry, beg my mastery, mine. Ah, I will ride the dizzy beast of the world, my road, my way. Scene, i.e., evening before Thebes. The pyramids are being built, swarms of Hebrews laboring, priests and taskmasters. 2 Hebrews are furtively talking. Ydesic and Kamix came, markering. Awilu. The vague vials of evening call, all the flower clans, to some abysmal swinging and tumult of deep trance, he may hear, flower of my singing, and come hither winging. Old Hebrew. Century. Gazing after her in a muffled frenzy, Hostadeev, in a maybes to its action to Askons into Askons, or people. Her decestors are opening the eye quests into one, shaping. 12 those about the streams of others are trying, transing, and her distance. What understanding with one of the detail? Hateful harlot, boils cover your small cruel face. O fine champion Moses, O so good to us, O grand begetter on her of a whip and a torturer, her father, born to us since you kissed her, our champion, O so good to us. Young Hebrew. For shame, our brothers' twisted blood-smeared gums. Tell we only have more room for wreck curtailed. For you, having no teeth to draw, it is no mercy, perhaps, but they might mangle your gums or touch a nerve somewhere. He barred it now, and that is all his thanks, he, too, in peril. Old Hebrew. Wait. All day some slow dark quadruped beats, to pulp our springiness, all day some hoofed animal treads our veins, leisurely, leisurely, our energies flow out, all agonies created from the first day, have wandered hungry searching the world for us, or they would perish like disused behemoth. Is our Messiah one to unleash these agonies, as Moses does, who gives us an Abanoah? Young Hebrew. Yesterday as I lay nigh dead with toil, underneath the hurtling crane oiled with our blood, thinking to end all, and let the crane crush me, he came by, and bore me into the shade. Oh, what a furnace roaring in his blood, thawed my congealed sinews, and tingled my own, raging through me like a strong cordial. He spoke, since yesterday, am I not larger grown? Restavan. I've seen men hugely shapen in soul, of such unhuman shaggy male turbulence, they tower and foam miles from our neck, strained sight, and to their shop only heroes come, but all were cripples to this speed, constrained to the stables of flesh. I say there is a famine in ripe harvest. When hungry giants come as guests, come knead the hills and ocean into food, there is none for him. The streaming vigors of his blood erupting from his halt tongue are like an anger thrust out of a madman's piteous craving for a monstrous balked perfection. Old Hebrew. He is a prince, an animal, not of our kind, who perhaps has heard vague rumors of our world, to his mind, an unpleasant miasma. Young Hebrew. Is not Miriam his sister, Jochebed his mother? In the womb he looked round and saw from furthermost stretches our wrong, from the palaces and schools. Our pain has pierced dead generations, back to his blood's thin source. As we lie chained by Egyptian men, he lay in nets of their women, and now rejoices he has broken their meshes. Oh, his desires are fleets of treasure he has squandered in treacherous seas, sailing mistrust to find frank ports. He fears our fear and tampers mildly for our assent to let him save us. When he walks amid our toil, with some master mason, his tense brows, critical, of the loose enginery, hint famed devices flat, his rod, scratching new schemes on the sand, but read hard the scrawl blinds there, limned turrets and darkness, chinks of light. Half beasts, snorting into the light, a phantasmagoria, wild escapade, to our heart's clue, just a daring plan, to the honest mason. What swathed meanings peer from his work, a day counsel, washed to and from your understanding till you doubt that a word was said, but a terror wakes and forces your eyes into his covertly, to search his searching, startled to life, starved hopes slink out, cowering, incredulous. Old Hebrew. To himself. His youth is flattered at Moses's kind speech to him. To thig young Hebrew, with time isenses. I am broken and gray, have seen much in my time, and all this gay grotesque of childish man. Long past, half blind, half deaf, I only grumble, I am not blind or deaf enough for peace. I have seen splendid young fools cheat themselves into a prophet's frenzy. I have seen so many crazed shadows puffed away, and conscious cheats with such an ache for fame. They'd make a bonfire of themselves to be mouthed in the squares, broad in the public eye, and whose backs break, whose lives are mauled, after it all falls flat. His tender airs chill me, as thoughts of sleep to a man tiptoed night-long robed round his neck, for sleep means death to him. Oh, he is kind to us. Your safe teeth chatter when they hear a step. He left them yours because his cunning way would brag the wrong against his humane act. By Pharaoh, so gain more favor than he lost. Young Hebrew. Help him not then, and push your safety away. I for my part will be his backward eye, his hands when they are shut. Ah, Abanoah! Like a bad smell from the soul of Moses dipped. In the mire of lust he hangs round him, and if his slit-like eyes could tear right out the pleasure Moses on his daughter had, she'd be as virgin as ere she came nestling into that fierce unmanageable blood, flying from her loathed father. Oh, that slave has hammered from the anvil of her beauty a steel to break his manacles, hard for us. Moses has made him overseer. Oh, his slits! Pry. Istiu for what? Istiu to sell to Imrah. Abanoah is seen approaching. Shh! The thin-lipped abomination, zigzagging hashish tours in a fine style, it were delightful labor-making bricks, knowing they would kiss friendly with his head. Abanoah, who has been taking hashish, and who has one obsession, hatred of Jews. 100 Medes as port. Dirt-draggled mongrels, circumcised slaves, you puddle with your lousy gibberish, the holy air, Pharaoh's own tributary, filthy manure for Pharaoh's flourishing. I'll circumcise and make holy your tongues, and stop one outlet to your profanation. To thee, Old Hebrew, or practice and bane, which some feigns, of courses. I've never seen one beg so for a blow, too soft am I to resist such entreaty. Servius lead, Servius leaders, Servius leaders, Servius leaders, Servius leaders. 4. When prophets, makers, or everywhere, howling holds the earnest energies you cheat from Pharaoh when you make his bricks. An aged minstrel sings from a distance. W-A, W-A, W-A. 4. Stepu. Taut is the air and tied the trees. The leaves lie as on a hand. God's unthinkable imagination invents new tortures for nature. And when the air is soft and the leaves feel free and push and tremble, will they not remember and say, how wonderful to have lived? The old Hebrew is agitated and murmurs, Messiah, Messiah. That voice, W2, oh, he has beaten my sight out. Oh, W2. I see, like a rain about a devouring fire. Y and W. The minstrel sings, Nati nighted and Easta to go out. All 4. Ye who best got a while, oh here, your wealth, is but his cunning to see to make death more hard. Your iron sinews take more pain in breaking, and he has made the market for your beauty. Too poor to buy, although you die to sell. Old Hebrew. I am crazed with whips. W-A, I hear a Messiah. Young Hebrew. The venerable man will question this. Abanoah. Overhearing. I'll beat you more, and he'll question the scratchiness of your whining, or, maybe, thence may be born deep argument, with reasons from philosophy, that this blow, taking longer, yet was but one, or perhaps two, or that you felt this one, arguing from the difference in your whine, exactly, or not, like the other. Minstrel. You labor hard to give pain. Abanoah. Still beating. My pain is die, my pain is die, not die, as die, to labor so. Minstrel. What is this graybeard worth to you now? All his dried up blood crumbled to dust? Motions Abanoah to desist, but not in time to prevent the old man fainting into the hands of the young Hebrew, to do a darkies, higher, eyes. Abanoah. Harper, are you envious of the old fool? Go, hug the rat who stole your last crumbs, and gnawed the hole in your life which made time wonder who it was saved labor for him the next score of years. We allowed them life for their labor, they haggled. Food they must have, and God of laughter. Even ease. But mud and lice and Jews are very busy, breeding plagues in ease. The minstrel pulls his beard and robe off. Ovis, of all. In Emberwa, office not of Embera, are discommon, in a stermining common river too, or discovered used slaves. Abanoah. Ness. Moses. You drunken rascal. Abanoah. A drunken rascal. Isis, hear the prince, drunken with duty, and he calls me rascal. Moses. You may think it your duty to get drunk, but get yourself bronze claws before you would be impudent. Abanoah. When a man's drunk he'll kiss a horse or king, he's so affectionate. Under your words, there is strong wine to make me drunk, you think. The lines of all your face say, her father, Koilu's father. Moses. This is too droll and extraordinary. I dreamt I was a prince, a queer droll dream, where a certain slave of mine, a toad, shifting his belly, showed a diamond, where he had lain, and a blind dumb messenger bore syllabled messengers soaked right through with glee. I paid the toad, the blind man, afterwards. They spread a stench and snarling. Oh, droll dream! I think you merely mean to flatter me, you subtle knave. That, more than prince, I'm man, and worth to listen to your body breath. Abanoah. Yet my breath was worth your mixing with. Moses. A boy at college flattered, so by a girl. We'll give her what she asks for. Abanoah. Osiris, burning Osiris, of thee desirable, for thee, her hair. O seen mile. He looks inanely at Moses, saying to himself, so ost estri. Prince Imra vowed his honey hives and vineyards, Isis, to let a Jew have her for nothing. He sings under his breath, HDU, HD. IDO, 7. IDO, ID. What you I? Night by night in a little house, a man and woman meet. They look like each other, they are sister and brother, and night by night at that same hour, a king calls for his son in vain. Moses. To himself. See, so, Sister Miriam, it is known then, slave, you die. Aloud. Oh, you ambiguous stench, you'll be more interesting as a mummy. I have no doubt. Abinoah. I'm drunk, yes, drenched with the thought of a certain thing. Aside, I'll sleep sounder tonight. Then all the nights I've followed him about worrying each slight clue, each monosyllable, to give the word to Imra, the prince is near, and Moses's eyes shall blink before next hour, to 100 javelins. I'll tease him till they come. Aloud, on Koilu's tears, I swam to you, and a mist, of her size I hung round you, as in some hallucination I've been walking. A white waste world, we two only in it. Moses. Doubtless the instinct balked to bully the girl, making large gapings in your hashish dreams, led you to me in whom she was thoroughly lost. Pah, you sicken me. He is silent a while, then turns away, and, at2 and, probists, I in 40s, we two in void introduction, 1212. Abinoah. Prince Imra is Pharaoh's choice now, and Koilu's. Moses turns back menacingly, MRTs as MRTs, which so quist as a pass firm, Moses, but it was wide as, an actual process was existing process for 52. Silence, you beast. He changes his tone to a winning softness. I undiut. I hate these family quarrels. It is so, like fratricide. I am a rebel. Well, soft, you are not, and we are knit so close. It would be shame for a son to be so honored, and the father still unknown. Come, Koelus, so my father, I'll tell my plans. You'll beg to be rebel then. Look round on the night, old as the first, bleak, even her wishes done, she has never seen, though dreamt perhaps of the sun, yet only dawn divides, could a miracle destroy the dawn, night would be mixed with light. No night or light would be, but a new thing. So with these slaves, who perhaps have dreamt of freedom, Egypt was in the way, I'll strike it out, with my ways curious and unusual. I have a trouble in my mind for largeness, rough-hearted, shaggy, which your grave ardors lack. Here is the quarry, quiet for me to hew. Here are the springs, primeval elements, the roots, hid secrecy, old source of race, unreasoned reason of the savage instinct. I'd shape one impulse through the contraries, of vain ambitious men, selfish and callous, and frail life, drifters, reticent, delicate, litheness, thread bulk, a nation's harmony. These are not lame, nor bent awry, but placeless, with the rust and stagnant. All that's low, all charm, barbaric love, sweetened to tenderness, cunning run into wisdom, craft turn to skill, their meanness, threaded right and sensibly, change to a prudence envied and not sneered, their hugeness be a driving wedge to a thing ineffable and usable, as near solidity as human life can be, so grandly fashion these rude elements into some newer nature, a consciousness, like naked light seizing the all-eyed soul, oppressing with its gorgeous tyranny, until they take it thus, or die. While speaking, he places his hand on the unsuspecting Egyptian's head and gently, caressingly, pulls his hair back until his chin is above his forehead and holds him so till he is suffocated. In the darkness ahead is seen the glimmer of javelins and spears. It is Prince Imra's cohorts come to arrest Moses and Ea. The end. Poems, from camp and trench. And like the artist who creates, from dying things, what never dies. Fragment. Daughters of war. Space beats the ruddy freedom of their limbs. their naked dances with man's spirit, naked, by the root side of the tree of life, the underside of things, and shut from earth's profoundest eyes. I saw in prophetic gleams, these mighty daughters in their dances beckon each soul aghast from its crimson corpse, to mix in their glittering dances. I heard the mighty daughters' giant sighs, in sleepless passion for the sons of valor and envy of the days of flesh, barring their love with mortal bows across time. The mortal boughs, the mortal tree of life, the old bark burnt with iron wars, they blow to a live flame to char the young green days, and reach the occult soul. They have no softer lure than the savage ways of death. We were satisfied of our lords, the moon and the sun, to take our wage of sleep and bread and warmth. These maidens came, these strong ever-living Amazons, and in an easy might their wrists, of night sway and noon sway, the scepters break, clouding the soft lustres of our eyes. Clouding the wild lustres, the clinging tender lights, driving the darkness into the flame of day, with the Amazonian wind of them, over our corroding faces, that must be broken for evermore, so the soul can leap out into their huge embraces. Though there are human faces, best sculptures of deity, and sinews lusted after, by the archangels tall, even these must leap to the love heat of these maidens, from the flame of terrene days, leaving grey ashes to the wind. One whose great lifted face, where wisdom's strength and beauty's strength, and the thewed strength of large beasts, moved and merged, gloomed and lit, was speaking surely as the earth, men's earth fell away, whose new hearing drank the sound, where pictures, lutes, and mountains mixed with the loosed spirit of a thought, essenced to language thus. However, my sisters force their males, from the doomed earth, from the doomed glee, and hankering of hearts, frail hands gleam up through the human quagmire, and lips of ash seem to wail, as in sad faded paintings, far sunken and strange. My sisters have their males, clean of the dust of old days, that clings about those white hands, and yearns in those voices sad, but these shall not see them, or think of them in any days or years. They are my sisters' lovers in other days and years. On receiving the first news of the war. Snow is a strange white word, no ice or frost has asked of bud or bird, for winter's cost. Yet ice and frost and snow, from earth to sky, this summer land doth know, no man knows why, or durestic, what being, Tories. For triology, or darks and May because they tarred to shone. In all men's hearts it is, some spirit, old half, turned with malign kiss our lives to mold. Red fangs have torn his face, God's blood is shed, he mourns from his lone place, his children dead. O ancient crimson curse, corrode, consume, give back this universe its pristine bloom. See Cape Town, 1914. Spring, 1906. Slow, rigid, is this masquerade, that passes as through a difficult air, heavily passes. What has she fed on? Who her table laid through the 3 seasons? What forbidden fare ruined her as a mortal lass is? I played with her 2 years ago, who might be now her own sister in stone, so altered from her May mien, when round the pink a necklace of warm snow laughed to her throat where my mouth's touch had gone. How is this, ruined queen? Who lured her vivid beauty so, to be that strained chill thing that moves, so ghastly midst her young brood, of pregnant shoots that she for men did grow? Where are the strong men who made these their loves? Spring, God pity your mood. The troop ship. Grotesque and queerly huddled contortionist to twist, the sleepy soul to asleep, we lie all sorts of ways and cannot sleep. The wet wind is so cold and the lurching men so careless that, should you drop to a doze, winds' fumble or men's feet are on your face. Marching. As seen from the left file, my eyes catch ruddy necks, sturdily pressed back, all a red brick moving glint, like flaming pendulums, hands, swing across the khaki, mustard-colored khaki, to the automatic feet. We husband the ancient glory in these bared necks and hands. Not broke is the forge of Mars, but a subtler brain beats iron, to shoe the hoofs of death, who paws dynamic air now. Blind fingers loose an iron cloud, to rain immortal darkness on strong eyes. Break of day in the trenches. The darkness crumbles away. It is the same old druid, time as ever. Only a live thing leaps my hand, a queer sardonic rat, as I pull the parapet's poppy to stick behind my ear. Droll rat, they would shoot you if they knew your cosmopolitan sympathies, and God knows what antipathies. Now you have touched this English hand, you will do the same to a German, soon, no doubt, if it be your pleasure, to cross the sleeping green between. It seems you inwardly grin as you pass. Strong eyes, fine limbs, haughty athletes, less chance than you for life. Bonds to the whims of murder, sprawled in the bowels of the earth, the torn fields of France. What do you see in our eyes, at the shrieking iron and flame hurled through still heavens? What quaver, what heart aghast? Poppies whose roots are in man's veins, drop, and are ever dropping, but mine in my ear is safe, just a little white with the dust. Killed in action. Your youth too has fallen from its shelf, and you have fallen, you yourself. They knocked a soldier on the head, I mourn the poet who fell dead. And yet I think it was by chance, by oversight, you died in France. You were so poor an outward man, so small against your spirit span, that nature, being tired awhile, saw but your outward human pile, and nature, who would never let a sun with light still in it set, before you even reached your sky, in inadvertence let you die. I day in. Footnote 2. Youth, a volume of poems by S. Rosenberg. Returning, we hear the larks. Somber the night is, and, though we have our lives, we know what sinister threat lurks there. Dragging these anguished limbs, we only know this poison-blasted track opens on our camp, on a little safe sleep. But hark! Joy, joy, strange joy! Lo! Heights of night ringing with unseen larks, music showering on our upturned listening faces. Death could drop from the dark, as easily as song, but song only dropped, like a blind man's dreams on the sand, by dangerous tides, like a girl's dark hair, for she dreams no ruin lies there, or her kisses where a serpent hides. The destruction of Jerusalem, by the Babylonian hordes. They left their Babylon bare, of all its tall men, of all its proud horses, they made for Lebanon. And shadowy sowers went before their spears to sow the fruit whose taste is ash, for Judah's soul to know. They who bowed to the bull god, whose wings roofed Babylon, in endless hosts darkened the bright-heavened Lebanon. They washed their grime in pools, where laughing girls forgot the wiles they used for Solomon. Sweet laughter remembered not. Sweet laughter charred in the flame that clutched the cloud and earth, while Solomon's towers crashed between to a gird of Babylon's mirth. The burning of the temple. Fierce wrath of Solomon, where sleepest thou? So see the fabric which thou won earth and ocean to give thee. Oh, look at the red skies. Or hath the sun plunged down? What is this molten gold, these thundering fires blown through heaven, where the smoke rolled? Again the great king dies. His dreams go out in smoke, his days he let not pass, and sculptured here are broke, are charred as the burnt grass, gone as his mouth's last sighs. Home. Thoughts from France. Wan, fragile faces of joy, pitiful mouths that strive to light with smiles the place. We dream we walk alive. To you I stretch my hands shut in pitiless trance, in a land of ruin and woe, the desolate land of France. Dear faces startled and shaken, out of wild dust and sounds, you yearn to me, lure and sadden my heart with futile bounds. The Immortals. I killed them, but but they would not die, yea, all the day and all the night. For them I could not rest nor sleep, nor guard from them, nor hide in flight. Then in my agony I turned, and made my hands red in their gore. In vain, for faster than I slew, they rose more cruel than before. I killed and killed with slaughter mad, I killed till all my strength was gone, and still they rose to torture me, for devils only die for fun. I used to think the devil hid in women's smiles and wine's carouse. I called him Satan, Beelzebub, but now I call him Dirty Louse. Louse hunting. Nudes, stark and glistening, yelling in lurid glee, grinning faces and raging limbs, whirl over the floor one fire, for a shirt verminously busy yon soldier tore from his throat. With oaths Godhead might shrink at, but not the lice, and soon the shirt was aflare, over the candle he'd lit while we lay. Then we all sprang up and stripped, to hunt the verminous brood. Soon like a demon's pantomime, this plunge was raging. See the silhouettes agape, see the gibbering shadows, mixed with the baffled arms on the wall. See gargantuan hooked fingers, pluck in supreme flesh, to smutch supreme littleness. See the merry limbs in that highland fling, because some wizard vermin willed to charm from the quiet this revel, when our ears were half lulled by the dark music blown from sleep's trumpet. Girl, to soldier on leave. I love you, Titan lover, my own storm day's Titan. Greater than the son of Zeus, I know whom I would choose. Whelp he done, whelp. Titan, my splendid rebel, the old Prometheus wanes, like a ghost before your power. His pangs were joys to yours. Pallid days, arid and wan, tied your soul fast, Babel city's smoky tops, pressed upon your growth. Weary gyves, what were you, but a word in the brain's ways, or the sleep of Circe's swine, one give holds you yet. It held you hiddenly on the psalm tide from my heart at home. Oh, must it loosen now? I wish you were bound with the old gyves, in Bactund, which Pertas and Abirs are menting Heres and Abir simmer, which Pertas in more too hiddenly, on the psalm. Time some type from size distinctions from my hearted new stride, in matey textant. Love, you love me, your eyes have looked through death at mine. You have tempted a grave too much, I let you, I repine. Soldier, 20th century, Y.A.C. Frenchieth. I love you, great new Titan, am I not you, Napoleon and Kaiser, out of you grew. Out of unthinkable torture, eyes kissed by death, won back to the world again, lost and won in a breath. Cruel men are made immortal, out of your pain born, they have stolen the sun's power, with their feet on your shoulders worn. Let them shrink from your girth, that has outgrown the pallid days, when you slept like Circe's swine, or a word in the brain's ways. The Jew. Moses, from whose loins I sprung, lit by a lamp in his blood, 10 immutable rules, a moon, for mutable lampless men. The blonde, the bronze, the ruddy, with the same heaving blood, keep tied to the moon of Moses. Then why do they sneer at me? The dying soldier. Here are houses, he moaned, I could reach, but my brain swims. Then they thundered and flashed, and shook the earth to its rims. They are gun pits, he gasped. Our men are at the guns. Water, W, water, W, oh water, for one of England's dying sons. We cannot give you water. We're all England in your breath. Water, CO, water, CO, 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 CO. Dead man's dump. The plunging limbers over the shattered track, racketed with their rusty freight, stuck out like many crowns of thorns, and the rusty stakes like scepters, old, to stay the flood of brutish men upon our brothers dear. The wheels lurched over sprawled dead, but pained them not, though their bones crunched, their shut mouths made no moan, They lie there huddled, friend and foeman, man born of man and born of woman, and shells go crying over them from night till night, and now Earth has waited for them all the time of their growth, fretting for their decay, now she has them at last, in the strength of their strength, suspended, stopped, and held. What fierce imaginings their dark souls lit, Earth, have they gone into you? Somewhere they must have gone, and flung on your hard back, is their soul's sack emptied of God, ancestral essences, who hurled them out, who hurled? None saw their spirit's shadow shake the grass, or stood aside for the half-used life to pass out, of those doomed nostrils and the doomed mouth, when the swift iron-burning bee drained the wild honey of their youth. What of us, who, flung on the shrieking pyre, walk, our usual thoughts untouched, our lucky limbs as on Achor fed, immortal seeming ever? Perhaps when the flames beat loud on us, a fear may choke in our veins, and the startled blood may stop. The air is loud with death, the dark air spurts with fire, the explosions ceaseless are. Timelessly now, some minutes past, these dead strode time with vigorous life, till the shrapnel called an end. But not to all. Unbleeding pangs, some born on stretchers dreamed of home, dear things, war. Blotted from their hearts. A man's brains splattered on a stretcher-bearer's face. His shook shoulders slipped their load, but when they bent to look again, the drowning soul was sunk too deep for human tenderness. They left this dead with the older dead, stretched at the crossroads. Burnt black by strange decay, their sinister faces lie, the lid over each eye, the grass and colored clay. More motion have than they, joined to the great sunk silences. Here is one not long dead. His dark hearing caught our far wheels, and the choked soul stretched weak hands. To reach the living word, the far wheels said. The blood-dazed intelligence beating for light, crying through the suspense of the far torturing wheels. Swift for the end to break, or the wheels to break, cried as the tide of the world broke over his sight. Will they come? Will they ever come? Even as the mixed hoofs of the mules, the quivering bellied mules, and the rushing wheels all mixed with his tortured, upturned sight. So we crashed round the bend. We heard his weak scream. We heard his very last sound, and our wheels grazed his dead face. In war. Fret the nonchalant noon with your spleen, or your gay brow, for the motion of your spirit ever moves with ease. When day shall be too quiet, deaf to you, and your dumb smile, untuned air shall lap the stillness, in the old space for your voice, or voice, the voice that once could mirror remote depths, of moving being, stirred by responsive voices near, suddenly stilled forever. No ghost darkens the places dark to one, but my eyes dream, and my heart is heavy to think how it was heavy once. In the old days when death stalked the world, for the flower of men, and the rose of beauty faded and pined in the great gloom. One day we dug a grave. We were vexed with the sun's heat. We scanned the hooded dead. At noon we sat and talked. How death had kissed their eyes, 3 dread noons since, how human art won the dark soul to flicker till it was lost again. And we whom chance kept whole, but haggard, spent, were charged to make a place for them who knew no pain in any place. The good priest came to pray, our ears half heard, and half we thought of alien things, irrelevant, and the heat and thirst were great. The good priest read, I heard, bestie. Dimly my brain held words and lost. Pri bestie, idt, fine and see, fruit, ce, fine and see. God, it could not be. He read my brother's name. I sank, I clutched the priest. They did not tell me it was he, was killed 3 days ago. What are the great sceptered dooms to us, caught in the wild wave? We break ourselves on them, my brother, our hearts and years. The dead heroes. Flame out, you glorious skies. Welcome our brave. Kiss their exultant eyes. Give what they gave. flash, mailed seraphim, your burning spears, new days to outflame their dim heroic years. Thrills their baptismal tread, the bright proud air, the embattled plumes outspread, burn upwards there. Flame out, O song, star ring to star, strong as our hurt is strong our children are. Their blood is England's heart, by their dead hands it is their noble part that England stands. Shh. England, time gave them thee, they gave back this, to win eternity and claim God's kiss. Fragments of The Unicorn. I, the Amulet. Lilith, Saul, Amok, Nubian. Nubian. Lilith sits under pomegranate trees, watching her child, Amok, playing with Saul his father's helm and spear. A light smoke is ascending from the chimney of their hut, and through the doorway a naked Nubian man is seen stirring the embers. CCCC. Lilith. Amok, you'll break your father's sleep. Come here and tell me what those spices are. This strange man bakes our cakes with. It makes the brain wild. Be still, Amok. I'll give you the strange man your father brought, and he will run with you upon his back today. Come from your father or you'll get no cake. He's been a long journey. Bring me the pictured book he brought for you. What? Already cut to pieces? Put away that horn from your father's ear, and stay that horrid noise. Come, Amok. Amok runs to his mother with a jade amulet, shouting, Alti, Semerchi, Alti, Obeycade. Amok. Look, mother, what I've found. In the mentary, important CV, other mentary, all processes, important CVia. In the far mentary, Dido. He runs back again, making great shouts. Lilith. It dances with my blood. When my eyes caught it first, I was like lost, and yearned, and strained like iron to stay my head from falling. Upon that beggar's breast, where the jade stone hung. Perhaps the spirit of Saul's young love lies here, strayed far and brought back by this stranger near. Saul said his discourse was more deep than heaven. For the storm trapped him ere he left the town, loaded with our week's victuals, the slime clung, and licked and clawed and chewed the clogged dragging wheels, till they sunk right to the axle. Saul, sodden and vexed, like fury smote the mules' mouths, pulling but sweat from his drowned hair and theirs, while the thunder knocked, and all the air yawned, water, falling water, and the light cart was water, like a wrecked raft, and all seemed like a forest under the ocean. Sudden the lightning flashed upon a figure, moving as a man moves in the slipping mud, singing, but not as a man sings, through the storm, which could not drown his sounds. Saul bawled, Hi, hi! And the man loomed, naked, vast, and gripped the wheels. Saul fiercely dug from under. He tugged the wheels, the mules foamed, straining. Suddenly they went. Saul and the man leaped in. Saul, miserably sodden, marveled at the large cheer in a naked glistening man, yet soon fell in with that contented mood, that when our hut's light broke on his new mind, he could not credit it. Too soon it seemed, the stranger man's talk was witchery. I pray his baking be as magical, the cake should be nigh burnt. She calls the Nubian, he answers from within. Nubian. They are laid by, to cool, housewife. Lilith. Bring me the sherbet from the ledge and the fast-dried figs. The Nubian brings sherbet, figs, and a bowl of ice, and lays them down. Or D. She looks curiously at him. He is an immense man with squat, mule-skinned features. His jet-black curled beard, crisp hair, glistening nude limbs appear to her like some heathen idol of ancient stories. She thinks to herself, I test, to herself. It produces, toward the day, and a bestial. Out of the lightning, in a dizzying cloven wink, this apparition stood up, of stricken trunk or beast's spirit, stirred by Saul's blasphemies. So Saul's heart feared, aghast. But lo, he touched the mischance, and life ran straight. Was it the storm spirit, storm's pilot, with all the heaving debris of Noah's sunken days, dragged on his loins, Law's spirit wandering to us through nature's anarchy, wandering towards us when the Titans yet were young. Perhaps Moses and Buddha he met. She speaks aloud. Idea, CS peaks, and people from rolling us. What's peoples to get to restructures, which is uncreated, so experience is loved, is attention, fraction. The shadow of these pomegranate boughs is sweet and restful. Sit and ease your feet. Eat of these figs, you have journeyed long. Nubian. All my life, housewife. Lilith. You have seen men and women, soaked yourself in powers and old glories, in broken days and tears and glees, and touched cold hands, hands shut in pitiless trances where the feast high. I think there is more sorrow in the world than man can bear. Nubian. None can exceed their limit, lady, you either bear or break. Lilith. Can one choose to break? To bear, wearily to bear, is misery. Beauty is this corroding malady. Nubian. Beauty is a great paradox, music's secret soul creeping about the senses, to wrestle with man's coarser nature. It is hard when beauty loses. Lilith. I think beauty is a bad bargain made of life. Men's iron sinews hew them room in the world, and use deceits to gain them trophies. Oh, when our beauty fails us, did we not use deceits? Where were our room in the world? Only our room in the world. Are not the songs and devices of men, molds they have made after my scarlet mouth, of cunning words and contours of bronze, and vials and gathered air? They without song have sung me boldly and shamelessly. I am no wanton, no harlot. I have been pleased and smiled my pleasure. I am a wife with a woman's natural ways. Yet through the shadow of the pomegranates filters a poison day by day, and to a malady turns the blonde, the ample music of my heart, inward to eat my heart. My thoughts are worms that suck my softness all away. I watch the dumb eyeless hours drop their tears, then shapeless moaning drop. Unfathomable is my mouth's stream. Do not men say, so secret are my far eyes, weaving for iron men profound subtleties. Sorceress they name me, and my eyes harden, and they say, how may those eyes know love, if God made her without a heart? Her tears, her moaning, her sad profound gaze, the disheveled lustres of her hair, moonstorm-like, they say, these are her subtleties, men say. My husband sleeps. The ghosts of my virgin days do not trouble him. His sleep can be overlong, for there is that in my embers, pride and blushes of fire, the outraged blood. His sleep makes me remember. Hi, his sleep makes me remember. Hi. Sleep, Harry Hunter, sleep. You are not hungry more. Having fed on my deliciousness, your sleep is not adultery to me. For you were wed to a girl, and I am a woman. My lonely days are not whips to my honor. She dries her tears with her hair, then fingers the amulet at her throat. Yours, friend. Fitting. Eagerly. My amulet, my amulet, my amulet. He speaks gravely. Small comfort is counsel to broken lives, but tolerance is medicinal. In all our textures are loosed, pulses straining against strictness. Because an easy issue lies therefrom, could they but slink past the hands holding whips to hunt them from the human pale, where is the accident to cover? Spite, fierce bias. I am justified at my heart's plea, he is justified also. For the eyes of vanity are sleepless, are suspicious, are mad with imaginings, of secret stabs in words, in looks, in gestures. Man is a chimera's eremite, that lures him from the good kindness of days, which only ask his willingness. There is a crazed shadow from no golden body, that poisons at the core. What smiles may stray, it mixes with all God ancestral essences, and twists the brain and heart. Heart, whisks the brain and heart. This shadow sits in the texture of Saul's being, mauling your love and beauty with its lies. I hold a power like light to shrivel it. There in your throat's hollow, that green jade. He snatches at it as she lets it fall. He grows white and troubled, and walks to where Amak is playing, and sees minutely strewn pieces of paper. IDEG. RSL, to the best or two. He mutters, lost, lost. The child has torn the scroll in it, and half is away, it cannot be spelt now. Lilith. God, restore me his love. Ah, well. Infactive studies, and their 2 wades as arcuate. I will go now, prepare our evening meal, and waken my husband, my love once. My love. Ooh. Nubian. Newsing, the lightning of the heavens. Lifts in apocalypse, the dumb night's lips are scared and wide. The world is reeling with sound. Was I deaf before, mute, tied? What shakes here from luster-seated pomegranates? Not in the great world, more vast and terrible. What is this ecstasy in form, this lightning, that found the lightning in my blood, searing my spirit's lips aghast and naked? I am flung in the abyss of days, and the void is filled with rushing sound. From pent eternities I am strewn, as the cipher is strewn, a woman, a soft woman. Our girls have hair, like heights of night ringing with never-seen larks, or blindness dim with dreams. Here is a yellow tiger gay that blinds your night. Mane, mane, mane. Mane. Your honey spilt round that small dazzling face shakes me to golden tremors. I have no life at all, only thin golden tremors. Light tender beast, your fragile gleaming wrists have shaken the scaled glacier from under me and bored into my craft. That is now, with the old dreamy atom, with other things of dust. Lilith. You lazy hound, see my poor child. He turns to see Lilith drop the bowl and cakes and run to Amok, who is crying, half stifled under Daki Seltz's huge shield. I jest. Saul opens his eyes. IDT, IDTC. I.e., the song of, tell the Nubian, and fist, Turi, over. All the, Nubian, and fist, Turiu, when England, astronauto, rand. Small dazzling face. I shut you in my soul, how can I perish now? But thence a strange decay, your fragile gleaming wrists, waver my days and shake my life. To golden tremors, I have no life at all, only thin golden tremors that shudder over the abyss of days, which hedged my spirit, your prison walls, that shrunk like phantasms with your vivid beauty, towering and widening till, the sad moonless place, throngs with a million torches, and spears of flaming wings. I, the Tower of Skulls. Mourners. These layers of piled-up skulls, these layers of gleaming horror, stark horror. Everywhere, everywhere is a pregnant birth, and here in Death's Land is a pregnant birth. Your own crying is less mortal than the amazing soul in your body. Your own crying yon parrot takes up. On from your empty skull cries it afterwards. Thou, whose dark activities unenchanted, days from gyrating days, suspending them, to thrust them far from sight, from the gyrating days, which have gone widening on and left us here, cast derelicts lost forever. When aged flesh looks down on tender brood, for he knows between his thin ribs walls, the giant universe, the interminable panorama, synods, myths and creeds, he knows his dust is fire and seed. Earlier poems. I have heard the gods, in their high conference, as I lay outside the world, quiet in sleep. In Fester, Umbertu, fragment. Or reading. He was an artist and a dreamer, that is, one whose delight in the beauty of life was an effective obstacle to the achievement of the joy of living. Circa 1913. I am, and musts, is, and, in chi, way, people, how. Expression. Call, call and bruise the air, shatter dumb space. Yea, we will fling this passion everywhere, leaving no place. England. For the superb and grave, magnificent throng, the pregnant queens of quietness that brave and edge our song. Of wonder at the light, our life leased home, of greeting to our housemates, and in might our song shall roam. Life's heart, a blossoming fire, blown bright by thought, while gleams and fades the infinite desire, phantasmed not. Can this be caught and caged? Wings can be clipped of eagles, the sun's gaudy measure gauged, but no sense dipped. In the mystery of sense, the troubled throng of words break out like smothered fire through dense and smoldering wrong. From night and day. I in the workshop. Dim watery lights gleaming on gibbering faces, faces speechful, barren of soul and sordid, huddled and chewing a jest, lewd and gabbled insidious. Laughter born of its dung, flashes and floods like sunlight, filling the room with a sense of a soul lethargic and kindly, touches my soul with a pathos, a hint of a wide desolation. I saw the face of God today, I heard the music of his smile, and yet I was not far away, and yet in paradise the while. I lay upon the sparkling grass, and God's own mouth was kissing me, and there was nothing that did pass, but blazed with divinity. Divine, divine, upon my eyes, upon mine hair, divine, divine, the fervor of the golden skies, the ardent gaze of God on mine. I. Then spake I to the tree, were ye your own desire, what is it ye would be? Well, is it ye would be? Answered the tree to me, I am my own desire, I am what I would be. If you were your desire, would you lie under me, and see me as you see? I am my own desire, while I lie under you, and that which I would be, desire, will sing to you. I wander, oh, will she wander here? Where my footsteps carry me, I know that she is near, a jeweled lamp within her hand and jewels in her hair. I lost her in a vision once, and seek her everywhere. My spirit whispers, she is near. I look at you, and you, surely she has not passed me. I, sleeping as she flew. I wander, and yet she is not here, although my spirit whispers to me that she is near. Third. She stood, a hill and sceptred queen, the glory streaming from her, while heaven flashed her rays between, and shed eternal summer. The gates of morning opened wide. On sunny dome and steeple, noon gleamed upon the mountainside, thronged with a happy people, Alvers, and Mosters, and also Doan, Alvers Doan masses, and iterations, and background. And twilight's drowsy half-closed eyes beheld that virgin splendor, whose orbs were as her darkening skies, and as her spirit, tender. Girt with that strength, firstborn of right, held fast by deeds of honor, her robe she wove with rays more bright than heaven could rain upon her. Note 3. Written at the age of 16. Where is that light, that citadel, that robe with woof of glory? She lost her virtue and she fell, and only left her story. Spiritual isolation, a fragment. My Maker shunneth me, even as a wretch stricken with leprosy. So hold I pestilent supremacy. Yea, he hath fled far as the uttermost star, beyond the unperturbed fastnesses of night, and dreams that bastioned are, by fretted towers of sleep that scare his light. Of wisdom writ, whereto my burdened feet may haste withouten rue, I may not spell, and I am sore to do. Yea, all-seeing my Maker hath such dread, even mine own self-love, wists not, but to fly to him, and sore besped leaves me, its captain, in such mutiny. Will, deemed incorporate with me, hath flown ere love, to expiate its sinful stay where he did habitate. Ah me, if they had left a sepulchre, but no, the light hath changed not, and in it, of its same color stir, spirits I see not, but phantasmed feel to flit. Air, legioned with such, stirreth, so that I seem to draw them with my breath, ghouls that devour each joy they do to death, strange glimmering griefs and sorrowing silences, bearing dead flowers unseen, whose charnel smell, great awe to my sense is even in the rose time, when all else is well. Life. Far away. By what pale light or moon-pale shore, drifts my soul in lonely flight, regions God had floated o'er air, he touched the world with light. Not in heaven, and not in earth, Is this water, is this moon? For there is no starry birth, and no dawning, and no noon. Far away, oh far away, mist-born, dewy vapors rise from the dim gates of the day, far below in earthly skies. And 6. Spring. I walk and I wonder, to hear the birds sing, without you, my lady, how can there be spring? I see the pink blossoms that slept for a year, but who could have waked them while you were not near? Birds sing to the blossoms, blind, dreaming you're pink. These blush to the songsters, your music. They think, so well had you taught them, to look and to sing, your bloom and your music, the ways of the spring. A silver rose to show is your sweet face, and like the heaven's white brow, sometime God's battle place, your blood is quiet now. Your body is a star, unto my thought, but stars are not too far, and can be caught, small pools their prisons are. Heart's first word, I. To sweeten a swift minute, so with such rare fragrance of sweet speech, and make the after hours go, in a blank yearning each on each, to drain the springs till they be dry, and then in anguish thirst for drink, so but to glimpse her robe thirst I, and my soul hungers and I sink. There is no word that we have said, whereby the lips and heart are fire, no look, the linked glances red, that held the springs of deep desire. And yet the sounds her glad lips gave, AWR, on my soul vibrating still, her eyes that swept me as a wave, shine my soul's worship to fulfill. Her hair, her eyes, her throat and chin, sweet hair, sweet eyes, sweet throat, so sweet, so fair, because the ways of sin have never known her perfect feet. By what far ways and marvelous may I such lovely heaven reach? What dread, dark seas and perilous, lie twixt love's silence and love's speech? Heart's first word, Ia. And all her soft dark hair, breathed for him like a prayer, and her white lost face was prisoned to some far place. Love was not denied, love's ends would hide, and flower and fruit and tree were under its sea, yea, its abundance knelt, where the nerves felt the springs of feeling flow, and made pain grow. There seemed no root or sky, but a pent infinity, where apparitions dim sculptured each whim in flame and wandering mist of kisses to be kissed. Lady, you are my God. Lady, you are my God. Lady, you are my heaven. Wires. If I am your God, labor for your heaven. C.S. E. Sperm. All the fine names were your prey too. Also, if I am your Jod, see chapters. Lady, you are my God, and shall not love win heaven? Heaven. If love made me God, deeds must win my heaven. Ideas is, ideas is porting social. If my love made you God, what more can I for heaven? If you are fire. If you are fire, and I am fire, who blows the flame apart, so that desire eludes desire around one central heart? A single root and separate bough, and what blind hands between that make our longings mutual glow, as if it had not been. N. The underworld. I have lived in the underworld so long, how can you, a creature of light, without terror understand the song, and unmoved, hear what moves in night? I am a spirit that yours has found, strange, undelightful, obscure, created by some other god, and bound, in terrible darkness, breathing breath impure. Creature of light and happiness, deeper the darkness was, when you, with your bright terror eddying the distress, grazed the dark waves and shivering further flew. Oh, in a world of men and women. Oh, in a world of men and women, where all things seemed so strange to me, and speech, the common world called human, for me was a vain mimicry. I thought, oh, am I one in sorrow, or is the world more quick to hide their pain with raiment that they borrow from pleasure in the house of pride? O joy of mine, O longed for stranger, how I would greet you if you came. In the world's joys, I've been a ranger, in my world's sorrow is their name. A girl's thoughts. Dim apprehension of a trust comes over me this quiet hour, as though the silence were a flower, and this, its perfume, dark like dust. My individual self would cling, through fear, through pride, unto its fears. It strives to shut out what it hears, the founts of being murmuring. Oh, need, whose hauntings terrorize, whether my maiden ways would hide, or lose, and to that need subside, life shrinks and instinct dreads surprise. A Ballad of Whitechapel. God's mercy shines, and our full hearts must make record of this, for grief that burst from out its dark confines, into strange sunlit bliss. I stood where glowed the merry glare of golden whirring lights above the monstrous mass that seethed and flowed through one of London's nights. I watched the gleams of jagged warm lights on shrunk faces pale. I heard mad laughter as one hears in dreams, or hell's harsh lurid tale. The traffic rolled, a gliding chaos populous of din, a steaming wail at doom the Lord had scrawled, for perilous loads of sin. And my soul thought, what fearful land have my steps wandered to? God's love is everywhere, but here is naught, save love his anger slew. And as I stood lost in promiscuous bewilderment, which to my mazed soul was wonder food, a girl in garments rent peered neath lids shamed, and spoke to me and murmured to my blood. My soul stopped dead, and all my horror flamed at her forgot of God. Her hungered eyes, craving and yet so sadly spiritual, shone like the unsmirched corner of a jewel, where else foul blemish lies. I walked with her, because my heart thought, here the soul is clean, the fragrance of the frankincense and myrrh is lost in odors mean. She told me how the shadow of Black Death had newly come, and touched her father, mother, even now, grim hovering in her home, where fevered lay her wasting brother in a cold bleak room, which theirs would be no longer than a day, and then the streets and doom. Lord, Lord, dear Lord, I knew that life was bitter, but my soul recoiled as anguish, smitten by sharp sword, grieving such bodies dole. Then grief gave place to a strange pulsing rapture as she spoke, for I could catch the glimpses of God's grace, and a desire awoke to take this trust, and warm and gladden it with love's new fires, burning the past to ashes and to dust, through purified desires. We walked our way, one way hewn for us from the birth of time, for we had wandered into love's strange clime, through ways sin waits to slay. PG66889. Love's euphony, in love's own temple, that is our glad hearts, makes now long music, wild deliciously, now grief hath used his darts. Love infinite, chastened by sorrow, hallowed by pure flame, not all the surging world can compass it. Love, love, O tremulous name. God's mercy shines, and my full heart hath made record of this, of grief that burst from out its dark confines into strange sunlit bliss. This? The free fair life that has never been mine, the glory that might have been, if I were what you seem to be and what I may not be. I know I walk upon the earth, but a dreadful wall between my spirit and your spirit lies, your joy and my misery. The angels that lie watching us, the little human play, what deem they of the laughter and the tears that flow apart? When a word of man is a woman's doom, do they turn and wonder and say, ah, why has God made love so great that love must burst her heart? The Nun. So thy soul's meekness shrinks, too loath to show her face. Why should she shun the world? It is a holy place. Concealed to itself, if the flower kept its scent, of itself amorous, less rich its ornament. Use utmost in each kind, is beauty, truth in one, while soul rays light to soul in one God, linked sun. In Piccadilly. Lamplit faces, to you, what is your starry due? gold flowers of the night blue. Deep in wet pavement's slime, mud-rooted is your fierce prime, to bloom in lust's colored clime. The sheen of eyes that lust, which due time made your trust, lights your passionless dust. A mood. You are so light and gay, so slight sweet maid, your limbs like leaves in play, or beams that grasses braid, oh, joys whose jewels pray, my breast to be inlaid. Frail fairy of the streets, strong, dainty lure, for all men's eyes the sweets, whose lack makes heart so poor, while your heart loveless beats, light, laughing, and impure. Oh, fragrant waft of flesh, float through me so, my limbs are in your mesh, my blood forgets to flow, ah, lilied meadows fresh, it knows where it would go. First, fruit. I did not pluck at all, and I am sorry now, the garden is not barred, but the boughs are heavy with snow, the flake blossoms thickly fall, and the hid roots sigh, how long will our flowers be marred? Strange as a bird were dumb, strange as a hueless leaf, as one deaf hungers to hear or gazes without belief, the fruit yearned, fingers, come, oh, shut hands, be empty another year. A careless heart. A little breath can make a prayer, a little wind can take it, and turn it back again to air, then say, why should you make it? An ardent thought can make a word, a little ear can hear it, a careless heart forget it heard, then why keep ever near it? Hada, hada, harda. Wait, dawn. O tender first cold flush of rose, O budded dawn, wake dreamily, your dim lips as your lids unclose, murmur your own sad threnody. Oh, as the soft and frail lights break upon your eyelids and your eyes, wider and wider grow and wake, the old pale glory dies. And then, as sleep lies down to sleep, and all her dreams lie somewhere dead, the iron shepherd leads his sheep to pastures parched whose green is shed. Still, O frail dawn, still in your hair, and your cold eyes and sad sweet lips, the ghosts of all the dreams are there, to fade like passing ships. At night. Crazed shadows, from no golden body that I can see, embrace me warm, all is purple and closed, round by night's arm. A brilliance wings from dark-lit voices, wild lost voices of shadows white, see the long houses lean, to the weird flight. Star amorous things that wake at sleep time, because the sun spreads wide like a tree, with no good fruit for them, thrill secrecy. Pale horses ride before the morning, the secret roots of the sun to tread, with hoofs shod with venom, and ageless dread. To breathe on burning emerald grasses, and opalescent dews of the day, and poison at the core, what smiles may stray. Creation. As the pregnant womb of night, thrills with imprisoned light, misty, nebulous born, growing deeper into her morn, so man, with no sudden stride, bloomed into pride. In the womb of the All-Spirit, the universe lay, the will, blind, an atom, lay still, the pulse of matter obeyed in awe, and strove to flatter the rhythmic law. But the will grew, nature feared, and cast off the child she reared, now her rival, instinct led, with her own powers impregnated. Brain and heart, blood-fervid flowers, creation is each act of yours. Your roots are God, the pauseless cause, but your boughs sway to self-windy laws. If we could unveil our eyes, become as wise as the all-wise, no love would be, no mystery. Love and joy dwell in infinity. Love begets love, reaching highest, we find a higher still, unseen. From where we stood to reach the first, Moses must die to live in Christ, the seed be buried to live to green. Perfection must begin from worst. Christ perceives a larger reachless love, more full, and grows to reach thereof. The green plant yearns for its yellow fruit. Perfection always is a root, and joy, a motion that doth feed itself on light of its own speed, and round its radiant circle runs, creating and devouring suns. Of any old man. Wreck not the aging heart of quietness, with alien uproar and rude jolly cries, which satyr-like to a mild maiden's pride, Ripen not wisdom but a large recoil, give them their withered peace, their trial grave, their past youth's threescored shadowy effigy. Mock them not with your ripened turbulence, their frost-mailed petulance with your torrid wrath, when, edging your boisterous thunders, shivers one word, pop to their senile sneering, drugged to truth, the feigned rampart of bleak ignorance. Experience, crown of naked majesties, that tells us not, we know not, but confirms. Oh, think, you reverend, shadowy, austere, your Christ youth was not ended when he died. The one lost. I mingle with your bones, you steal in subtle noose. This lighted dust Jehovah loans, and now I lose. All's unstate. What will the lender say, when I shall not be found, safe sheltered at the judgment day, being in you bound? He'll hunt through wards of heaven, call to uncoffined earth, where is this soul unjudged, not given dole for good's dearth? And I, lying so safe within you, hearing all, to have cheated God shall laugh, freed by your thrall. Wedded. They leave their lovelorn haunts, their sigh-warm floating Eden, and they are mute at once, mortals by God unheedden, by their past kisses chidden. But they have kissed and known clear things we dim by guesses, spirit to spirit grown, heaven, born in hand, caresses. Love, fall from sheltering tresses. And they are dumb and strange, bared trees bowed from each other, their last green interchange. What lost dream shall discover, dead, strayed, to love, strange lover. Don Juan's Song. The moon is in an ecstasy, it wanes not, nor can grow. The heavens are in a mist of love, and deepest knowledge know, what things in nature seem to move. Bear love as I bear love, and bear my pleasures so. I bear my love as streams that bear the sky still flow or shake, though deep within, too far on high, light blossoms kiss and wake the waters sooner than the sky, and if they kiss and die, God made them frail to break. On a lady singing. She bade us listen to the singing lark, in tones far sweeter than its own, for fear that she should cease and leave us dark. We built the bird a feigned throne, shrined in her gracious glory, giving ways, from sceptred hands of starred humility, praising herself the more in giving praise to music less than she. Beauty. As a sword in the sun, a glory, calling a glory, our eyes, seeing it run, capture its gleam for our story. Singer, marvelous gleam, dancing in splendid light, here you have brought us our dream, ah, but its stay is its flight. A question. What if you shut your eyes and look, yea, look with all the spirit's eyes, while mystic unrevealed skies unfold like pages of a book, wherein new scenes of wonder rare are imaged, till the sense deceives itself, and what it sees believes, even what the soul has pictured there. Begrin. Caught still as Absalom, surely the air hangs from the swayless cloud boughs, like hair of Absalom, caught and hanging still. From the imagined weight of spaces in a sky of mute chagrin, my thoughts hang like branch-clung hair to trunks of silence swung, with the choked soul weighing down into thick emptiness. Christ, end this hanging death, for endlessness hangs therefrom. Invisibly branches break from invisible trees, the cloud woods where we rush, our eyes holding so much, which we must ride dim ages round ere the hands we dream can touch. We ride, before the morning, the secret roots of the sun to tread, and suddenly we are lifted of all we know, and hang from implacable boughs. The blind God, streaked with immortal blasphemies, betwixt his twin eternities, the shaper of mortal destinies, sits in that limbo of dreamless sleep, some nothing that hath shadows deep. The world is only a small pool, in the meadows of eternity, and men like fishes lying cool, and the wise man and the fool, in its depths like fishes lie. When an angel drops a rod, and he draws you to the sky, will you bear to meet your God, you have streaked with blasphemy? The female God. We curl into your eyes, they drink our fires and have never drained, in the fierce forest of your hair, our desires beat blindly for their treasure. In your eyes' subtle pit, far down, glimmer our souls, and your hair like massive forest trees, shadows our pulses, overtired and dumb. Like a candle lost in an electric glare, our spirits tread your eyes' infinities, in the wrecking waves of your tumultuous locks. Do you not hear the moaning of our pulses? Queen, goddess, animal, in sleep do your dreams battle with our souls, when your hair is spread like a lover on the pillow, do not our jealous pulses wake between? You have dethroned the ancient God, you have usurped his Sabbath, his common days, yea, every moment is delivered to you, our temple, our eternal, our one God. Our souls have passed into your eyes, our days into your hair, and you, our rose-deaf prison, are very pleased with the world. Your world. If, God. In his malodorous brain, what slugs and mire, lanthorned in his oblique eyes, guttering burned, his body lodged a rat where men nursed souls, the world flashed grape-green eyes of a foiled cat, to him. On fragments of an old shrunk power, on shy and maimed, on women wrung awry, he lay, a bullying hulk, to crush them more, but when one fearless turned and clawed like bronze, cringing was easy to blunt these stern paws, and he would weigh the heavier on those after. Who rests in God's mean flattery now? Your wealth is but his cunning to make death more hard, your iron sinews take more pain in breaking, and he has made the market for your beauty, too poor to buy although you die to sell. Only that he has never heard of sleep, and when the cats come out, the rats are sly, here we are safe till he slinks in at dawn. But he is not a fibre from strange roots, and in the morning some pale wonder ceases. Things are not strange, and strange things are forgetful. Ah, if the day were arid, somehow lost, out of us, but it is as hair of us, and only in the hush no wind stirs it, and in the light vague trouble lifts and breeze, and restlessness still shadows the lost ways. The fingers shut on voices that pass through, where blind farewells are taken easily. Ah, this miasma of a rotting God. Sleep. Godhead's lip hangs, when our pulses have no golden tremors, and his whips are flicked by mice, and all star amorous things. Drops, drops of shivering quiet, filter under my lids, now only am I powerful. What though the cunning gods outwit us here? In daytime and in playtime, surely they feel the gyves we lay on them, in our sleep. Oh, subtle gods lying hidden, oh, gods with your oblique eyes, your elbows in the dawn and wrists, bright with the afternoon, do you not shake when a mortal slides into your own unvexed peace? When a moving stillness breaks over your knees, an emanation of piled aeons pressures, from our bodies flat and straight, and your limbs are locked, futilely gods, and shut your sinister essences. My days. My days are but the tombs of buried hours, which tombs are hidden in the piled years. But from the mounds there spring up many flowers, whose beauty well repays their cost of tears. Time, like a sexton, pileth mold on mold, minutes on minutes till the tombs are high. But from the dust there fall some grains of gold, and the dead corpse leaves what will never die. It may be but a thought, the nursling seed, of many thoughts, of many a high desire, some little act that stirs a noble deed, like breath rekindling a smoldering fire. They only live who have not lived in vain, for in their works their life returns again. Printed, in Great Britain by Billing and Sons, Limited, Guildford and Esher, all C. Est, for Dread and Esher. S. Mended Benses, and aspect she's developins advantages. Transcribers, as, notes. 1. Silently corrected, obvious typographical errors and variations in spelling. 2. Retained archaic, non-standard, and uncertain spellings as printed. 3. Enclosed italics, font and underscores. Thanks for listening to Poems by Isaac Rosenberg. By Isaac Rosenberg.